Live. There we go. Perfect. And then I'll grab my coffee and then we're good to go. What's nice is TikTok added this feature that I can make a pop-out window for the chat. Makes life so much easier. So much easier.
What does that mean, a pop-out window?
So instead of having...
pop out and do something?
Yeah, so like I could see the chat as its own little box rather than a... like with... like TikTok has like a whole foundation that'll tell you a bunch of things. Like who's currently watching, who's not, who posts stuff. It's kind of annoying how it works, but... All right, let me just... I gotta get my coffee before we start this.
Coffee.
I mean, we're already live, but I just want to grab my coffee before we completely...
We're already live. Oh, that's nice. Make sure you put it in a cake shop mug. That's my request. Anybody out there live who's listening? Coffee tastes better in the cake shop.
Yes, it does. The problem is the mug doesn't hold that many liquids. That's the only downside. Oh, well. Hey, Chris's mom. See, Chris, at least someone is on time. I'm here. God damn it. Yep. And I got my mug.
Yep.
The reason I'm doing coffee is because I did my walk with Brooke before, because Brooke was like, let's go for a walk on the treadmill. And I didn't realize how much it wiped me, because I don't usually do it on Sundays, but we did it at like a couple hours ago, so now I'm like, oh.
I wrote down a HIIT workout for walking, but I can't walk. Well, I don't have a treadmill.
So what do you do? What are you grabbing?
I have my elliptical. Okay.
Okay.
Why is that? Okay. So I have to do a 1 to 5 minute warm up. Then now I'm supposed to do this 8 times, but I really only do this so far. I'm only up to 10 minutes with my knee on the elliptical. So for 20 seconds, it said 20 to 30. I'm going to start off 20. 20 seconds you sprint.
Yeah.
40 seconds you rest. And you keep doing that all the way through until I get to 10 minutes. And then I cool down from 10 to 10:05.
Usually when you talk about that with running, you don't call it HIIT training. You call it interval running. HIIT training is like when you're doing workouts, like let's say you're doing biceps.
Yeah. Okay. Potato patata, as you would say.
I don't want you to go to a gym of your one person in the basement and sound like an idiot, man.
Hey, don't insult Bo. He comes down every day with me.
Bo's hitting
he
the
sits on that sofa and gives me the evil eye if I'm going too slow.
Yeah, Finley just takes up the whole sofa. I like when I go over, the second you stand up, Finley just takes your spot. He's waiting for it. So I'm like, Sue, can you grab me this? Because I don't want to go. Everywhere's his spot. He's too big.
Yeah.
He's too big.
That's true. Yeah.
So I'll go over, and then, like, let's say I get up to get water or something, he just sprints for it.
Yeah. You have to start telling reserved. I'm saving my seat. Reserved.
Yeah. But if you put a table in front, he won't go up.
Well, I was gonna say, or put something on it like a coat or a blanket.
He
doesn't want that.
Yeah, he gives you the look. He's like this the whole time. He's like, "You gonna move it for me?"
Side eye.
Yeah.
He's the classic side eye.
Classic side eye.
Passive aggressive. He's passive aggressive. Both sat on our bed most of today. My bed most of today because I told you I was painting. And he's very good. It's just those pivotal times he decides, now I gotta eat.
Have we figured out? Chat wants to know, where are we moving? Have you found the spot yet? Do we have at least a state?
Well, no. Well, we're leaning heavily towards North Carolina.
Yes.
Because I can't find anything.
Because Mom wants to be closer to her favorite son. You hear that, Ken and Mike, if you're watching? She wants to be closer to the favorite.
I'm closer to both of them too in North Carolina.
Yeah, good point.
But I don't know. I just I like Virginia. I would like to find something in Virginia, but there's no place that offers everything in Virginia, nor has a town stood out for me.
Yeah.
And I was looking at Lake Anna, which is a very pretty lake in Virginia, but then I just happened to, and I felt it was a sign from God. Just some article just came up on my feed about all the snakes in Virginia, and there's a huge chunk of them in Lake Anna. a lot of ones that like to.
Well, I told you when I saw my first snake down here, and I mean like a real snake. Even I was like, "Whoa!"
Yeah,
I was like, "Geez, these things are." I'm sure everyone thinks I'm a wussy for how I look at the snake, and I basically ran the other way. But there is something about seeing a snake in person that's like like this thick, and you go, oh geez, and it's venomous,
Yeah.
so you know it'll kill you. Given down here, it's not going to kill you right away. There's anti venoms, but I mean,
They're not all venom, though. I mean, most of them
copperheads,
aren't.
copperheads, you got to stay away from. They actually tell you to kill
Copperhead.
those. What was
But
that?
they're all over. They're all every lake. You have the copperheads. I'm sure they're all over. I'm sure they're New Jersey. It just happens to be, since I'm looking at lakes, that seems to be it.
Yeah,
But I was talking to your aunt today. They're having a problem with their heating. Your uncle, as you know, has been worried about everything in the house. So I'm back to shaking my head because, I just don't want other people's
yeah,
problems.
yeah. I'm
So,
trying to find a house.
well, because buying one, I would rather build a house somewhere. Even a smaller home, I would rather have new than a bigger home that's, for lack of a better word, used. Just because, think about it. Appliances. Your aunt's had problem with appliances. She's had problems with the
Yeah.
heating. She had problems
Blame
with the
North
pool.
Carolina. I haven't had any problems.
Well, I don't even blame the previous owners or whatever. It's just wear and tear in a house. Everything
It is.
ages.
Yeah, that makes
So you're
sense.
buying it priced for something that's X number of years old. But I just don't even want to deal with it.
Someone said move to Canada. They got maple syrup and bacon. Now, let me tell you this. This is a good segue to last night. I got a story for you. Did Answer
And
give you? Did yeah, and poutine. We're actually gonna talk about that Blue Ninja in a little bit. But we went out for dinner last night. Did Answer tell you the story? If you talked to her?
I talked to her, but no.
Oh, okay. So Jordan and I went to go get dinner. So Jordan's my cousin. Dinner was nice. We went to that Barrels Bites and whatever in New Bern. Shout out to that place. It was really good. What's up, Sky? So first off, best pretzel I've ever had in my life. I didn't even think that you can get a pretzel that good. And unfortunately, I got the wrong thing where Answer told us you should get the pretzel appetizer. But I got like the full pretzel appetizer, which comes with fried pickles, which I'm going to be honest, overrated. Fried pickles, it looked like a French fry, literally in pickle form.
Yeah.
They were good, but there's only so many pickles you can eat. I'll never understand people that can just down pickles. That shit's weird. Those are psychopaths. Anyone who can down a pickle like that, you got a problem. But those were good. And then the cheese curds. They had cheese curds that were delicious. But the reason, Mom, when we go, next week when you guys are here, we gotta go back to this place. They had bacon. I can't even describe to you how good this bacon was. It was like an apple smoked sugar bacon. It was like eating candy. Right? And then I ruined my meal because I went with the napalm burger. Now,
what a sick name for a burger.
it's all military. It's all military menu stuff. So like you got the recruit, you got the veteran, and the first off, I'm good with heat. You guys, for those of you that have watched the podcast for a while, you know I've done the one chip challenge. That was by far the hottest thing I've ever put in my mouth. The burger that I had, so mine was a burger, and it just had a bunch of jalapenos on the bottom. I don't have a problem with jalapenos, but it was so many jalapenos, and they didn't deseed it, so it was hot. But it was so hot that you couldn't even taste the burger. And I was like, this is kind of pointless. Yeah. And then they were going around. I guess they just wanted, it was a quiet night. Jordan said that when she goes, it's usually super busy, but it was a very quiet night. And
That's odd for a Saturday night.
Yeah. And she, the lady was asking, I was like, you got to take some jalapenos off this. That's mine. It was like 8 jalapenos. It had to be half a jalapeno on this burger. I was like, that's way too much. I couldn't taste it. Yeah. And my mouth was just on fire. Yeah, exactly. So that sucked. But yeah. But the real story is afterwards. So Jordan and I are going back. So this place is right across from that cathedral. So I'm sitting in the car, Mother. I get in on the passenger side, right? We took Jordan's car. I'm sitting on the passenger side. I get in, close the door. Jordan goes around to the door behind the driver's side to pick up, like, I guess she was just putting something like her bag in the back or whatever. And I see her talking to someone over my shoulder because I'm turned this way. And I'm like, what's going on? And I turn, and there's a guy basically standing over me, right? Beanie on, kind of weird. And he kind of said, he just got a smile on, and he tells me to roll down the window. The problem was the car wasn't on, so I couldn't open the window. And Jordan's like having a conversation with this guy. And I could tell Jordan wasn't, like, she was like, what is this? So I slightly opened the door because the guy was bothering us. And he comes up with this story, I guess. He goes, "Hey, man, I got this ID, but I don't know who I am. My wife and I are trying to get a hotel for the night. And I just need you to tell me, like, information. Because I guess, right, when you go to a hotel, um,
Mm-hmm.
when you go to a hotel, they ask for an ID. And I guess he couldn't,
Yep.
whatever. So he gives me this ID, and nowadays with fentanyl and all this stuff, I kind of gently shake his hand, like I'm not trying to touch the guy, but he's like coming at me like this, and I'm still in the car, and I have it slightly opened.
Well, let me understand something. Where are you in the
I'm
car?
in the
You're in the parking
passenger
lot of the
seat,
restaurant? No, but where's the car? You're in the
right
parking
next to
lot
the
of this
church.
restaurant?
Yeah, so right next to the church. It's pretty. That side is the left side, so door side. That's bright, but next to me, there's nothing. And I was a little not in shock, but I was surprised that this person was able to come up behind me without me hearing, which already I was like, okay. But
Now,
he,
this is another person besides who was talking to Jordan. So someone
no,
was
no, no,
talking
it's
to
the same
Jordan.
person. It's the same person. It's one
Oh, okay.
guy.
Because
He's
I was
talking from the
concerned that you didn't
sidewalk
get
over the
out
car.
and help Jordan. Okay, okay. So he comes over to your side. What's
Right.
Jordan doing?
Nothing. She's kind of talking to him, but he clearly wanted to talk to me because he was asking a question. But anyway,
Okay.
he hands me this ID, and I'm looking at it. It's a North Carolina ID, but I could tell something about it was off. It had his picture. It clearly said his name there, but I can tell something about it just wasn't right. So I'm reading it, and it says his name. It says James on it. Then he gives us the sob story about, I shouldn't say sob story, but he's like, my wife and I are trying to get a hotel room. And I'm like, okay, first off, where's your wife? So right then and there,
Right.
I'm already like, okay, sure, this probably isn't true. But I said to him, I felt like I handled it well. I was like, listen, if you really need to know who you are, just go to a police station. A police station will run the ID. But the second I said police station, he goes, I don't know. And that's how I knew. I was like, he's trying to run some kind of scam. And then Uncle Jerry brought up today, or it was yesterday when we went back to their place, he said, I think this guy was doing that same thing about a month ago. I was like, oh, so the guy's still looking for a hotel? Right? So it was it was weird.
It's a scam
Yeah.
of some sort. So he's either feeling you out,
He's
like
trying.
maybe he's
Yeah,
gonna rob you guys.
no, he was trying to ask for money. Like he was going around asking for money. But then there was an older couple in front of us as we were pulling
Yeah.
out because I was like, go do something. And I was like, oh man, is he gonna do something to this? He was probably in his 50s, maybe late
Yeah.
40s, early 50s, probably a drug user or whatever. Um, and uh, he was going up to an old couple, and I was like, "Oh, this could get ugly," because an older couple they
Yeah.
can't defend themselves. So luckily it was just him alone, but we kind of drove away, and luckily I don't think anything happened. Again, he seemed like a nice, harmless guy, but he was trying to run some kind of like, "I need money for a hotel," or he was trying to use someone else's ID to get a hotel, which. I mean, that's never going to work. But I'm surprised that they even let him get into the town like that because usually the police are pretty good about it. But yeah, that was the
This is
only one.
downtown New Bern.
Yeah, this is dead center, right in front of that church. You know that big
Yeah, you told
cathedral.
me church. I don't really know it that well. I don't know the church you're talking about,
Oh,
but um,
money is
yeah, I mean, there's probably, as you know, that homeless community is there, but uh, it's one thing to run a scam. You know, it's another thing where it could be the scam is something while he's casing out something else, like what's in your car, or if you have watch or money or something.
right.
But the only thing I would say in that instance, I would probably swing by either the police station in town or something and just give them a heads up
Yeah.
because you guys were okay,
The
but
next people,
it
yeah.
could turn
That's why I was
right.
debating: do I call 911 and just say, "Hey, there's a guy walking around with what I can only describe as a fake ID," which right then and there, I think that's already illegal. But
Well, fake identity, he's running some sort of scam here. And again, maybe he doesn't mean any harm, but he could go up to the wrong person and they stab him or something,
yeah,
like because they panic. So it's just not a good
pepper
thing.
spray, yeah.
Right.
But it was
Yeah.
very strange. So
Yeah.
again, I was bigger than him, so it wasn't that much of a problem. But to your point, like if that guy had something on him, I just said, "Hey, just go to a police station." And the second I said that, he was like, "I don't know about that," and I was like, "Okay,
Yeah.
now I see what's going on." But yeah,
Yeah.
that was it. I don't know what I mean. I
Well,
guess that's disturbing the
the
peace, but
whole scenario was kind of weird. I think you're a little too nice because
yeah,
in
I should
general,
have.
no, what are you coming up to me for? Like, what do you,
Yeah, what do you want from
obviously,
me?
why would you leave the hotel? Why would you leave? It's like, obviously, it's like not even something worth helping where, I'd be like, okay, sorry, can't help you. I'm not. What do you want me to do? Do I look like the police where I could do something with your ID? And obviously, he wanted money of some sort. He was going to ask you for some money, but
Yeah, I think,
whatever.
and again, he was, yeah. If it happened again, I'd probably call 911 afterwards and say, hey, this guy's doing something. But it wasn't even that late. It was probably 9ish. I was probably 7:30ish, and I
Yeah.
was very, uh, it was a weird situation. I was a little flustered by it because it's very hard
I
to
would
come
say
up
rule
behind me
number.
without me noticing.
Yeah, and lesson learned. I think if you're out with, especially a young lady, make sure she gets in the car before you get
Yeah,
in.
well, I didn't even.
Just
Yeah, yeah. It very much caught me by surprise.
yeah,
That's
that's
why I
well,
was
yeah, and that
very
it was
surprised.
fun.
Yeah,
Sometimes things happen for a reason. Lesson learned, so that in the future,
yeah,
everybody's safe in the car before you get in. Because what are you gonna do if he puts a knife to her?
yeah. That's what I
Now
mean.
you got to get out.
That could have been ugly. But before we go into articles, let's see. So we'll do. So the way I like to do the live podcast is normally we do the whole podcast and do questions at the end. But we'll try and do it so
Right.
that we do the start, answer some questions. Then when we start doing the articles, we'll take a little pause after the articles, see if there's any questions and so on. And then at the end, we could do like a full Q&A. So let's see. Look who's late. Live stream. Have you all heard about Pope Francis? So we're going to talk about that one later because I have an article on that one. Did you see the leaks for God of War? As you know, one of my favorite games of all time. If you mean that live or what's it called? Live. What's it called? Damn it. The performance. What do you call it? Live paid feature games. I can't think of what they're called, but yeah, they scrapped
Maybe.
that and it looks like crap. No, I'm trying to do my live service. There we go. I was really struggling with the word. It's called a live service game, which is ass. So that's like a live service game, Mom. This is a complete scam. Complete scam. I hate these. Right. So
Never heard of it.
it's a new kind of game that all these companies are trying to push out because it's easier for people to pay monthly for something.
Yeah.
And so I pay for a $60 game. Well, it's gonna be like $40. And then they justify it so each month you have to keep paying. And then ideally they say like, oh, we're gonna keep adding new content every month. So that way it's a live service game. It's constantly updated. But every single time it's like 1 month of good updates, and then you're just paying for absolute crap. So
Right. For the rest of the month, you mean? They only update it once a month?
yeah, so the next month, if it's $10, like it's gonna ruin the video game communities. It's gonna kill it a little bit. So
Hey, well, you try something different, right? Try something new. See what works.
they're
Probably
just
not
trying to
gonna last.
milk us for every dollar we have. We're kids. We're kids that play video games. Imagine, Mom, if I came up to you, Mom, every month for Call of Duty, I need $10 on the
Didn't you used
$80
to do that
game.
when you were little?
Mommy. Yeah, but it used to be a one. It used to be a one and done thing. Now you have a battle pass, you have monthly subscriptions, you can buy in-game tokens with real money. It's become such a money grab. But what's one good deed you've done and haven't told anyone and still remember to this day?
Oh my
Nothing.
goodness.
I'm not I'm not humble enough to hide it. I tell people. I'm like, you'll never guess what I did. I gotta think.
Wow. I forgot that these in-depth questions come from the podcast
Yeah,
listeners.
that's what we do.
For it. That's
Google
a good
Pay,
one.
brother.
One good deed I've done. Well, as a
Beautiful.
mother, there's a
Someone said, "Oh, your sister's beautiful." I was like, "That's my mom. That's my mom."
They know that. They're
Yeah,
just trying to make a
they seem nice.
compliment. Compliment. Yes.
Uh,
Thank you.
One good deed. Huh. I guess technically last night when I told that guy to go to the police station, but I don't know if that's a deed. I let Brooke borrow my wine opener. Does that count?
No, but it's that you didn't tell somebody that you did something for someone and
I
you
tell
didn't tell
everyone.
them.
I don't have, again, I
Like,
have a level of narcissism. There's a certain level of narcissism. And Brooke literally just,
what's there?
yeah, Brooke just hopped in the other one. I was like, well, that was something that I offered. What's one good deed? I don't know. Bro, fuck off, Brooke. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I don't do very many good deeds without everyone knowing.
I've done some what I thought were good deeds that I knew people wouldn't construe as a good deed, but because I knew I
You
did
sold
it because it
drugs?
was no, like sometimes I won't do specifics, but I've done things that have made me look bad, but I did it for a reason. So
Oh, this one will be
over
good.
time, people realize, I'd like to think the people I did it for realized, oh, now I know why she did it because it made a bad situation better. It's hard to describe without going into details, but so I have done a couple things where they were meant to be good deeds, even though I didn't look like I was doing a good deed. Which sometimes people do that. You know, they take the hit for somebody, and that's a good deed in itself. You know, they'll take the blame so somebody
I
else
thought you were
doesn't
gonna
get.
say when you were hoarding ivermectin.
No,
When you were
no, no,
hoarding ivermectin for people.
no, 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 no.
My mom got like a shipment of 100 things of ivermectin from India during the height of COVID. Remember that?
But you know why? Because you got to take. It's based on your kilograms,
Yeah.
and you got to take like 3 of them per person, 3 times a day. That's depending on what your weight is. You could be taking 4 or 5. So they don't explain that to you with the ivermectin till you get it, and then you have to calculate your weight and the number of pills, and you're popping like 8 of these a day.
Yeah, I don't know how
That's
many
a big deal.
ivermectin. Like, I don't know what the dosage of ivermectin is.
Well, it's depends on you can get different dosages, but you take it based on your weight. So it's not like, for instance, amoxicillin or an
So I have to
antibiotic, and
pop like 20 of them. I have to pop like 20 of them to get anything out of it. Is that what you're saying, Mom?
well,
You call me
yeah,
fat?
no, but I'm saying, and you have to take them. Well, with COVID, you had to take them like 3 times a day, and it
Right.
was based on your weight. So you'd have to take like 3, 4. So say you 4 pills 3 times a day, 12 pills a day. You go through a pack pretty fast. Remember, they were on the black market. I had to go to
Yeah.
India for those. You know, it was like it came in a plain black box,
Yeah.
and
We were like, is this ivermectin or do we just order legitimate drugs disguised as ivermectin?
yeah, for
uh,
us, it was like clandestine. For them, it's like Advil. So they're shipping it in bulk to the United States, and they can't label the package because we're not supposed to be. You can't take the
yeah,
ivermectin.
you can't take
Call
it. Can't do it.
that
Which
stuff.
was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's good. All right. Let's just. I don't think there's any other questions from what I can see from all the other chats. But I don't know which one we want to start with article wise. Now, because of the vertical, we can't really show the articles. Also, fair use. But I don't know. Do we want to start with the rare earth matter? What is it? So I'll read them because you guys can't see them. But President Trump demands collateral for taxpayer money sent to Ukraine. Rare earth minerals will suffice. Not a bad
Yeah.
trade. I don't know what Ukraine has. Do they have lithium or is it cobalt?
I don't know what it is. He just said rare earth minerals. I didn't go into the details of it, but I guess it's stuff that we need, especially for electronics and stuff.
Yeah. So then he's probably taken. I mean, it's got to be silicone or silicon, whatever. I think there's a difference between silicone and silicon. I always thought that it was just.
All I know is silicone is like a sealant, a
Yeah.
rubber sealant. So finally, someone is thinking. So Trump wants to. He's trying to learn from our Afghan mistakes. So when we pulled out of Afghanistan, as everybody knows, we left all the equipment and the Taliban took it over, right?
Yeah.
But he, it's actually not what happened. Well, it did, but after that, we gave trillions of dollars of worth of stuff to Afghanistan. China then came in. They bought it all for $2 billion. So a lot of the stuff that we left, that I guess they didn't sell to the ISIS and the Taliban. Then as China comes in, they very wisely move into Afghanistan, buy our military assets for pennies, well, very low price.
I just want to point
And
out we've already hit like all the YouTube no-nos.
yeah.
Afghanistan, ISIS, ivermectin, COVID.
Oh, I didn't even know those were no-nos.
Oh,
So
I'm
anyhow,
sure.
then they wisely locked down all the resources in that country.
Right.
So kudos to China. Now we finally have somebody who's thinking, and Trump is saying, rightly so, we're going to give you billions of dollars. Guess what? We want collateral. Gee, how about that? China did exactly that in Afghanistan. They've done it around the world. Maybe it's time America started doing that. The U.S. started doing that. So instead of saying we're not going to give you the money, sure, we'll give you money, but we want the rare earth. So Zelensky obviously pitched a fit, didn't want to do it, but lo and behold, now he's changed his tune, and I believe they're trying to work out a deal where we're going to get a certain amount of the rare earth minerals in exchange for U.S.
It
dollars.
is funny how, I shouldn't say funny, but it is smart what he's doing in the sense of between Canada being the 51st state and then going after Greenland, he's making the smart play for the resources. Like the land's great, obviously, but the goal is obviously the resources because he knows that someone's going to go after Greenland eventually. Uh, question's who?
I say Greenland is not about the resources.
You don't think
Greenland
so?
is about no, it's a strategic location. So you have to remember, and he knew this the first presidency when he threw that out. We don't have a strategic presence in that part, and that's very important for all these people that scream about Russia, Russia, Russia. Russia's a nuclear, first world nuclear country, right? And the only real major strategic block that watches that area is in Scotland. We talked about this. It was recently on the show The Diplomat, where the woman goes through it, and I don't know who the character is, but she explains it for the American ambassador about, why we care about this area. Because there's nobody really watching that area. There's no protection in that part of the world, and any submarines, nuclear, and whatnot can pass through, and no one would know. So strategically, Greenland is a great location for the U.S. to plant their flag. The people of that country, they're not, I think it's Denmark that Greenland falls under. I think it's Denmark.
Yep.
Norway. Denmark. They're not thrilled with Denmark. They're not thrilled with the leadership there. And there's many of them who are, of the people, who have said informally that they'd have no problem falling under the United States.
So here's a question that's kind of been thrown out. Well, it's not really a question. I have a statement. I feel like I'm seeing a little too much of Elon. Do you get that same feeling? I'm seeing him with a chainsaw in Argentina, with sunglasses on, like he's high as a kite or intoxicated or something.
In Argentina. He got it from the Argentinian prime minister.
Well, he was shaking hands with the guy, so I thought it was there.
He was at CPAC.
Yeah.
No, he was at CPAC. So
Okay.
CPAC was.
I'm still seeing too much of him.
Yes.
I feel like, I like the guy, but I just feel like we're seeing. I feel like I've seen more of him than the president, given all the stuff that he's overturning with Doge. I mean, the second the Pentagon gets ran through with all the stones that they're going to turn, and then all the savings that we're going to have as a country, then I think we'll see a little less of him. But right now, I'm just like, what happened to the president? I do kind of agree with the left a little bit in the sense of it almost feels like he's running the country a little bit.
Well, I mean, I think what he's doing is it's a real wake up call, and it's the meshing of artificial intelligence or current abilities with a traditional government and the way it's been run into the ground. And now it's kind of like I want to say an in your face to the bloated government to say, okay, welcome to the 21st century.
Right.
You can't get away with this anymore. And we're going to put some. Now, I do agree. I think we talked about this. I think Elon Musk needs to stay in his lane a little bit. Not to say I don't appreciate what he's doing. Not to say that I think he's the perfect person to do it. And fortunately, he seems to be on the side of, not that I agree with everything he does, but, it's for the good of the country, which it is. He just sent out an email. And this is where I start to get a little bit like that stay in your lane, where I guess the president has authorized him to send out an email to the people of the, which is it? Was it education? One of the departments.
Board of Education?
I'm not sure which one. Department of Education.
Well, they're going down so fast. Each one. It could be all of them.
Right. Well, I know he did it. I believe he did it with the FBI also, where he said, he sent out an email saying, you have until the end of this week to tell us 5 things you accomplished last week. So he's getting them to justify their position.
Like it's a kindergarten.
Well, he was making a point, and I agree. And naturally, they all hit the roof. You can't ask us to do work. But Kash Patel, who was just confirmed yesterday,
big.
He put a stop to it. Only because he said we have our own internal procedures to do that. And, you don't have to answer that email.
So I guess he must have asked the FBI then.
Yes, I think it was the FBI, but there was some of the organization overall that he sent that out to. And I think that's the approach now. Kelly Loeffler, who was just confirmed for it was SBA loans. Anyhow, she did a put out a tweet where she's walking through the office on a business day. There's nobody there.
Oh wow,
They're all
really?
working from home. Yeah, it was a joke. And who knows if it was just one small, she's going through the cubicle. I didn't watch the whole thing, but they're all trying to make a point. And naturally, these union workers, government workers, are union workers. They don't like it.
Yeah.
They don't like that they have to go to an office. They don't like to be called out. And it's amazing how many of them are crying about it. Well, I don't remember these people crying when service people were let go because they wouldn't take a vaccine.
Yeah.
I don't remember them crying when people were let go. A lot of people were let go in the banking industry in 2008. They weren't crying then. And most of the individuals being let go, from what I understand, are like recent hires or probationary workers. So probably just staff that they beefed up that they never really needed anyhow.
Right. It's funny now that all the military guys have to go back to, like it's a requirement now that they have to be in an office. Half my gym is just gone because most of them are military engineers or in the aerospace. But I mean, I'm surrounded by huge military bases, but it's just funny because now there's like no one at the gym in the mornings except for the usual ones, which is nice because I get to know people a little more in depth. But
Right.
yeah, everyone's back to work. So
I gotta tell you, I don't think the military people mind that because they, by nature, are regimented individuals.
all right.
So to me, when they're working out, that is part of their job to be in shape. Sounds silly, but you working out as a YouTuber, you don't have to. For them, their job is physical, and I'm sure that they're okay with whatever they had to do to be called back and be active in doing it.
Right.
Because that's the nature of the job. That's what you signed up for. Lazy ass people who don't want to do the commute to work because they quote unquote can work better at home. There was a woman on New Jersey radio calling about her daughter, and literally this is what she said, crying on there because my daughter has a 4-year-old and she works from home and she just had a baby and now she got the notice that she has to go back to the office. She's not going to see her baby take her first steps. She's not going to see her baby make her first, say her first word.
Right.
And it's New Jersey 101.5.
Just neglect your kids. Who cares?
Me, do you know how many moms and dads never see that who work in the private sector? Okay, so he says, oh, that's fine, but you do understand people who work in private businesses have been back to work for 6 months to a year.
All
now.
I'm saying is Mike Tyson basically didn't have parents, and look how he turned out. So maybe neglect is the answer.
Then he asked, well, what do you do? Or what does your daughter do? And so, I don't know, but she works at a computer all day. But she did say she gets so much more done at home than she ever did in the office because of no distractions. So I ran that one by your dad because he works from home. He works with other people.
Dad's worked from home for like 10 years now at least.
I have an opinion because I don't think you can work from home. I think there are more distractions when you're a single parent working at home with little kids. You can't. You have to have a nanny just like you would if you're in an office. And even your dad said, yeah, that's the excuse everybody uses, that, I get more done at home. But really, do you get more done at home? If you have another person there watching your kids, sure.
That's true, yeah.
But you're not getting done more at home if you're watching your kids and you're working from home and you're throwing in the laundry and you're running out to the food store and, trade-off being you work late at night. These are government workers. Trust me, they are not.
If I have to run the dishwasher, my day's ruined. God damn, I had to do sheets today.
Well, and you have to make the distinction. I say it again. These are government workers. They're one cut above punching a clock.
Yeah,
9 to 5. That's the nature of the job. They're not going to, and I'm talking the masses. Of course, there are managers and whatnot who have to put in hours, but
right.
Even then, the government is just that way. It's like working for a bank. It's 9 to 5. You can't keep the bank open longer. There's a cutoff. Same thing with the post office.
I'd like to see what the Google building looks like. Like if you went into Google, besides engineers who are making sure everything runs properly, what does everyone else do? Right? I'm sure you have advertisement stuff, you have marketing and that, but it's Google. You definitely could cut more than half your staff and be fine.
Well, I mean, look at TikTok or not TikTok,
Twitter.
He got in. He knocked it down
Yeah.
to a staff of what, 200? That's all they needed.
Yeah.
It's all extra fluff. I don't know Google. My guess is Google is that in California or
Yeah.
Seattle.
I
Yeah,
know. I know YouTube's San Bruno, and I think Google's. Let's see.
Google might be one of those places where they have the ping pong tables and the bouncy
Oh,
balls.
they got
They have
everything. It's sick. They have. Oh, it's in Mountain View, California. Um,
mountain.
uh, they have slides. So if you gotta get down to the little cafeteria, you just slide on down. Tell me, tell me you wouldn't want that job.
I don't know if any of the listeners that watched Industry at all. The Netflix, was it Netflix? Netflix or Apple series? Okay, it's about the a fictional British investment bank, and it's in it did really well. I mean, and I watched it. A lot of drug use, a lot of all this stuff that I don't know. I think it's kind of a. I'm sure that's a problem in that industry, investment banking and whatnot. Always has been, even when I was involved. But it's not one of those things where some of these people are doing it so much that they would not be able to function at all. So I call a little bullshit on some of it. But they do a whole thing about they're going to take over this company that's not take it over. They're going to do a public offering for this company that's a green initiative type
Right.
company, and the office is all like bouncy balls, little kid tables, and just
I wish
doesn't
that's
fit.
what our office was like. The one back in Princeton. I wish we had that. All we got was coffee. That was it. We had those. I forget what the coffee brand was, but Kenny and I would put those down like crazy. When Kenny worked at the office and basically lived there, when he was there at 6. Remember when Kenny was there
Yeah.
like 5:30? He was just
Yeah.
chugging those coffees down. Those things were good. I gotta get some more of those.
Yeah.
I'm sure the office has just a shipment that's never been touched.
Do you ever get the coffee? in
Lackawanna, that's what it was called. Lackawanna coffee. Go ahead.
Lackawanna coffee. You ever do your? You ever use the coffee thing in your center? They had some unusual coffees.
Oh, the cappuccino one?
Yeah.
Like uh, again, nothing beats the one back in Turks and Caicos, the button press one.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
After that, you don't. But Brooke and I were just talking about it today because we were having. I can't even imagine milk and sugar in coffee anymore. I'm so used to black. I don't have the time for milk and sugar. She got this nice espresso maker. I hope Brooke's
Yeah.
still here. I hope she's listening. She got this nice espresso maker with all the fancy. It's got like a milk frother and all this stuff. I was like, God, that must take so long.
Eddie's roommate brought one of those home. Last time I was down there visiting.
Manny?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
everyone-
want to say.
Well, Manny's
So-
part of the squad. Everyone knows Manny. He's been on the
Okay.
podcast.
It's like the size of a microwave, maybe a small microwave. And it's really nice. It has the frothing and all that. And he had to go get a piece for it so it would work because he got it. I think an aunt or grandmother gave it to him. And she was getting rid of it. And I looked at it, and there was a day in time where I was like, "Oh, okay, press the press the espresso in, and you slide it in, and crank it, and you
Yeah.
steam it, and all that stuff." And now I'm like, "Why? I got a pot right behind me.
Yeah.
I just don't want to be bothered."
Well,
doing
that's
all that
like
crap.
Brooks' thing has a coffee grinder, so you take the
Yeah.
beans and you grind it down. I'm like, I don't want to take an hour to make my coffee in the mornings.
Well, I'll tell you something though. That is good.
Oh,
I used to
God.
have a coffee maker. You put the grinds in. Chris, try it one time if you haven't already. Talk about fresh. I mean,
Really?
oh my God, yes. If it's good beans, if you get good coffee, try it one time. When it's freshly ground, it's amazing. It's like for coffee drinkers, it spoils you because then you don't ever want to.
Damn it. Now I'm going to have to do it, and then I'm never going to be able to go back.
Yeah. But again, it has to be good beans. Just you don't want any burnt beans or anything. It's
I'll
just like
think about
coffee.
it. I'll
Right.
think about it. Yeah. Like, I like coffee, but I'm not that into coffee. I just need the caffeine.
Well, the nicest is when it's attached to the coffee maker. If you have to grind it separately, then you got to put it in the coffee maker. That I'm not. The nicest are you load
Take
beans
the hot tea kettle, the boiling water, do it over the beans or whatever. I'm not doing that shit. You crazy?
There's some people that swear the best coffee is a coffee press.
Yeah, I hear that all the time. Never gonna do it.
I know. I've never really said that. I can't say that I've tried it to say good, bad, or indifferent. I mean, it always comes down to the quality of the coffee. You could put garbage in there and it's still not going to be good coffee. But one of these days I have to try a coffee press and see if it's. But you got to boil the water, right? Pour it in, press it down.
It does look nice, and you need like a good hazelnut coffee or something. I want to do it with regular. Like
Yeah.
I bet you, like a vanilla bean is probably delicious.
Yeah, the flavored ones might make a difference, but I don't go for the flavored ones that much anymore. I
I'll
keep
do
it
the
simple.
hazelnut every now and then, but I'm at the point where it all tastes the same. It's more so the smell
Yeah,
at this point. And then
yeah.
I'm chewing so much gum now to try and avoid biting my nails that, yeah, it's whatever.
Well, there's one. I won't say the name in case they want to sponsor you, but there's one coffee place
Well, that's
that
all why you would say
I
that.
pay a
All the
lot of
more
money
reason why you
for.
would say the name.
Well, I don't want to give a bad name, but the
Oh,
coffee is so expensive. People rave about it. I've yet to have a good cup of coffee there. It's
Starbucks?
always, yeah, it's always
Yeah,
burnt.
I knew exactly what you were talking about. Starbucks, hey,
Donuts
you
are
guys
always better.
suck.
No, they don't sip it. Dunkin', I mean, their pastries are good,
Yeah.
but like Dunkin' Donuts is hit or miss. If you're a coffee drinker, there's nothing worse than weak coffee. Nothing worse.
Yeah. I have to make sure, like, if I'm not, what's the word? Like, when I have a sip of my coffee, that's literally the face I make. I'll go, If it's not hitting me like that, I don't want it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember
Yeah. So
college,
I would.
back at
Yeah.
Scranton. I don't know if they still have this, but we had a Starbucks there. For 50 cents, you could fill up a mug as big as you wanted. There were kids that would come in with like the Stanley cups when they were starting to get popular. Well, I should say before they were popular. They would get, I mean, it was like a gallon of coffee. I would get one of those every day for 50 cents.
They had a Starbucks at Penn State at the satellite school, right? Kenny School. And it was right in the middle of their cafeteria. If Kenny's listening, I don't know. Hopefully he remembers this. I just said, "Oh, let me just go run in and get a Starbucks coffee." He looked at me like, "No,
Don't do it, Ma.
do it." Why? So we go, and he's like, "All right, if we're in, in for penny, in for penny." He goes, "All right, I'll get a frappuccino." Right?
See, those are good at
This was.
Starbucks. Everything else is the regular coffee. How do you mess that up? But go ahead.
I understand why Kenny made the face. I have never seen such a slow Starbucks in my life.
Yeah.
It was like she was like grinding each bead.
Individually?
I'm making an exaggerate because I'm like, how can you slow down making a frappuccino and just a coffee? I don't even get the chai latte, blah blah blah. I'm just a basic Pikes Peak and leave room for
Yeah.
milk.
I would just say
that
black coffee. If it takes that long to give me black coffee, I'm probably going to walk out.
This was incredible. And he just kept looking at me like, "I told you so. I told you so. I told you so."
Really?
I'm like, this is honestly long. Banging my head against. How hard is it? Now pour the milk in the
Yeah.
cup.
I'll do it for you.
Yeah.
Just grab it. I'll freaking do it myself.
And if it took this long to pour coffee in a cup, how long is this frappuccino gonna take?
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, it's as I said, Starbucks makes good coffee when it's not coffee. They like all the frappuccinos and stuff, those are always good. The specialty drinks good. But for some reason, when it comes to just basic coffee, I don't know where they're getting their beans from, nor do I care. But stop. Find somewhere else. It sucks.
Yeah, I don't even get them when they're out at the store. Like at Target, you can buy their beans. And I'm fine with the Melita. I think the Melita's
I
still the
love my
best.
Melita.
Years ago, I had a client who imported coffees for a living, and we did financing for him.
Right?
And at the time, I was drinking Martinsons, and even he said, "Yeah, they're good. They don't burn the coffee." A lot of the major brands at that time, I don't even know if Starbucks was big back then, but a lot of the major brands is like, "Yeah, don't drink that. They burn the beans."
Yeah,
They
because
burn
what
the
they
beans,"
do is they put in that giant vat. They burn, but all day it's just sitting there, and then they keep it hot. Now, what I've been doing, which I mean, I've realized this might just be a crazy person talking here, but when I go back I keep my coffee. So I have to have 2 cups because 1 cup, if I make my whatever amount it is, it fills 2 of these, right? So I finish 1, then I go back for the second. And I guess because it burns longer, it has almost like a buttery taste to it. Does that make sense? It literally tastes like a buttery coffee. So I think that's kind of the idea that they're going with. But the problem is when you've just been heating it all day. Oh, hey, Jen. When you've been heating it all day, Starbucks coffee, it just burns. It's not fun. So that's why my second cup's better.
This is how bad I am. Okay, when we would go on family trips, as you recall, when we were younger, I brought my own coffee maker, and people put like my own drip.
Oh, when we would get our own house though, like when we rent a house. I thought you meant like when we bought it down in Mexico.
Right. And the sad part is the reason why I did that is not because I didn't want to share or whatever. I just wanted I don't like coffee that's been sitting, right?
Yeah.
So if somebody, I make the coffee that before, if somebody gets up before me, they brew it. First of all, now I gotta wait for that pot to be finished to get fresh coffee and blah blah blah. So I'm like, well, screw it. And I would literally make coffee for both. So it wasn't like I was being a pain in the ass. I would fill the coffee for the
My
morning, for the
mom
big
would
one.
fist fight my other aunts every morning for coffee.
It wasn't even that. It was whoever got up, aunt,
Yeah.
uncle, whatever. And then finally, I was like, well, why? It's so important to me. Why am I screwing around? I'm just bringing my own. I'm making my own 2 cups.
In your
That's how
defense,
much I don't
in my mom's defense, when we would go on these family trips, I mean, how many people were in that house? 30.
Well, right, and you want to put the coffee on, and that's
Yeah.
fine. But if they happen to get up before I did, which could happen, I'm like, well, damn, you can't even go dump the coffee and brew a fresh
Right.
pot because it's not fair to the other people. So I started taking my own little 2 cup one, and I had it in the other room. It's like, what is she doing? You know?
Yeah.
Anyhow, I
The
didn't
good
care.
old
I
days.
just had my coffee.
Yeah, then it got to the point where we would all just be going to Wawa in the mornings for coffee, and then we would get food. The Wawa runs we used to make in Cape May, legendary. Legendary.
But remember, you guys get up later, go at your leisure. For me, I was getting up and getting ready for kids to wake up to start
Yeah.
the day. I couldn't take
Between
off
you and
go to
Aunt
Wawa.
Linda. Yeah.
Well, everybody, all your aunts, the same story. We all had little kids. You couldn't just take off and go to Wawa.
We all know
You guys
Aunt
were
D was not waking up early. Her and Aunt Lisa were not waking up.
even remember who was up early. It's just more the point of, I want my coffee when I want it. And worked out fine for me. But what I was saying about burning beans, I don't mean when you make the coffee. When they prep beans before they ship them over, you got to roast them and stuff. So the actual beans that come in huge bags on ships.
You already lost me. Like, again, if it's this much of a goddamn process for me to make coffee, I'm so checked out. That's like when I was at dinner last night with Jordan. I don't know if Jordan's here. Jordan's listening or Answer's listening. They were talking about, when we went out with Jordan and her friend, they were talking about nails. I've never checked out faster in my life. My brain just shut it down. I was like, I don't know anything about nails, nor do I care. But then Jordan explained it to me last night. I was like, oh, okay. I also didn't realize it takes 3 hours to get your nails done.
Yeah, it's depending on what you're doing, yeah.
Yeah. And then she was telling me about the waxes and stuff. I was like, oh, what? But
yeah, I used to throw that at your dad every now and then when he complained about some silly thing I was doing. I was like, do you realize my friends go once a week for hours to get their nails done? It's like $40 every time they go. Be thankful I'm just running down the street for something,
Yeah, really.
Yeah, everything's relative. But yeah, doing your nails is time consuming. So.
Do we have any questions before we do the next one, the next article? Even though this is the one that we pretty much
went from rare earth metals in Ukraine
to coffee. Hey, coffee's a commodity among some countries. Yeah. It's the only thing Colombia has. Colombia would be a failed third world country if it didn't have.
No, they got the drugs, Chris.
No, that's true. That's true. I didn't know. Yeah, good one, Wolfram. Akas, say, will you be on COD? Not tonight. COD. No one's playing COD right now. Let's be honest. COD's kind of dead. It's all about Marvel Rivals. Michael has been a Marvel Rivals fiend, Mom.
Oh, really?
It's like a drug addict. He's like, Chris.
Oh, boy.
Oh, my God. Eyelashes take hours. Really?
They do.
Have you ever? That's what Jen just said. Jen's watching. What? How does it really? Okay, hear me out. Well, listen, I'm no expert, but what's the freaking thing where you take the lash and you...
Is it eyelashes or eyebrows?
Eyelashes. And yes, I do both. It's my relax time for the week. Oh, okay, Jen.
Yeah. Some people put individual ones in. So it's not a strip. It's like individuals just to put, it can be very time consuming. You got to put a little glue on the end and you feed it in.
Is that thing, is it an eye curler, eyelash curler? Is that the thing that sticks it, or is that for something else?
That's just to curl your eyelashes that you have.
Oh.
But when you want to, like as you get older, your eyelashes thin out. And even if you notice a lot of young ladies today, but they put the strip in. That's why they have such big flouncy eyelashes. But a lot of people put like smaller ones in rather than a full strip of them just to beef up what they have.
Yeah, and look, Michael showers like once a week. I said, Michael, no, I'm saying like how easy it is for men. 3 hours, one at a time lashes. Yes, they are individually done by a specialist. But what's it? Okay, hold on. Question, because I'm an idiot. What is it actually attaching to?
Well, it's to your eye, but you put it like on the outside of the lid. If you look closely, your eyelashes come out of like a little line of the
Yeah,
eye.
but where did the new ones go?
Well, they put it right in there. They tuck it in with your eyes and they kind of glue it to the top of your eye. Usually it's right above your lashes. So if you look at an eyelash,
Well, hold
I
on.
don't know why we're talking
Hold
about
on.
this.
Yeah, hold on. Wait. So did they get rid of your eyelashes and then put ones
No, no,
on?
no, 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 no. You don't get rid of eyelashes. Oh, no, no, no. Eyebrows, yes. Eyelashes, no. They add them in there. So put it this way: instead of putting a toupee on, you put in little hair follicles. So instead of pulling a full strip of eyelashes that come in all different lengths, by the way, you put in individual ones, and they have to they feed it into like some people like eyelashes towards the end of their eyes, right? Like little things curling at the end. So they'll put more in the end than in the middle. Oh yeah, it's a whole big thing, Chris. It's a whole fashion thing. Yeah.
Oh, Jen says Irene is talking about the home ones. Jen's talking
Oh
about
yeah.
each last lash is individually attached to an existing lash. So that's like a salon
Okay.
version.
Oh, okay. So that's
Being a
almost
woman
like
sucks.
right. It's like hair extensions,
Each new
right?
lashes is glued to one that exists.
Right.
I have to
So that's
believe
how
that
you make.
weighs more, right? Does that throw you off weight wise with your
Oh,
eyelashes?
but it fills your eyelashes. And you have to remember too. I don't know if this is true. Of I'm sure people just do it for beauty reasons, but
This is
there's a
really
lot of people, Chris, that lose hair like for
right. If you have
therapy and
chemo and
stuff.
whatnot.
Right. So you could put eyebrows in. You could put eyelash fake ones on to give yourself some eyelash. And if you didn't lose everything, you could put it in. It's kind of like women who do hair extensions, only they do it with their eyelashes.
Question: remember the old days where people would like draw their eyebrows on?
My grandmother used to do
Is
that all the time.
oh, but what was the point of that?
In the 1920s, there was a look where people had women had dramatic eyelashes or eyebrows, where they basically had nothing but one line, right?
Monobrow.
No, not
Yeah,
one
you mean one.
across.
You mean one across.
They
Good.
just did like a pencil line, and that was the style. So, and when you get older, like I said, the hair starts to fall. You'll notice your grandmother does it now. Grandma,
Does she?
your grandma.
Really?
Yeah.
Never
She uses a
noticed.
pencil in her eye. It's not good. She doesn't use the like
She
like
has,
she literally
she's a
takes a
very.
pencil and she does it. So you're supposed to kind of match it to your eyes and, do more with it than they do. But that was the style in the 1920s. If you look at pictures in magazines of models, that's what they did. So they would completely pull out all their eyebrows and they would just do a fine line pencil.
My God. Well, Jen said now people tattoo their eyebrows on. I guess it kind of
Yeah,
makes
that wouldn't
sense.
surprise me.
Yeah. Mom, I'm
You can,
doing it.
but you can get permanent eyeliner put on. You can get like
Well, I
permanent
guess that would just be a
mascara.
tattoo, right?
It's like that, but I don't think it's. I think you have to go back after a few months and redo it. I've never had it done, but I know a friend of mine who's had it done because she's always had like thin eyelashes. She didn't want to go through the process, and maybe she didn't even know about what Jen was talking about. She wanted to go through the process of fake eyelashes all the time. So she had, or she didn't want to go through the process of eyelining all the time. So she had it permanently put on. And then as her eyelashes started to fade, she had more, she would have it, like put on for a period of time. So I guess it was similar to what Jen was saying. I live with four guys.
Yeah,
I
this
don't
is this
care.
is a process. I didn't realize
I'm lucky if I get any makeup on in the course of a day. Growing up with three sons and your dad who could care less.
brow styles change and then you're stuck. Yeah, that makes sense. Question from someone: do y'all think Elon Musk will be a trillionaire real soon since his net worth is growing a lot under Trump? Same for Bezos. Probably not trillionaire unless you own unless you're an oil sheik overseas. You're probably not going to hit $1 trillion. The only trillionaires that we have in this world are usually royal families. It's tough to hit. People don't realize like $1 trillion is a crazy amount of money. Like 100 billion
Yeah.
is a lot. Trillion, unless you're literally selling to like directly to other governments, like the oil sheiks in Dubai, you're probably not going to hit $1 trillion.
Well, or unless the country prints that much money that a trillion
Yeah, that's
dollars is
true.
worth $1 billion. You could always say, "Oh, I have $1 trillion," but what is it worth? I think it's. I don't think any government's going to let you get that. Well, there was a time when we said, "Oh, do you think anybody would ever have $1 billion?" When people were millionaires. So I suppose it could happen, but You just got to wonder what's the value of those dollars when you get to
Yeah.
that.
I mean, I mean, if the Rockefellers haven't hit it yet, or the Rothschilds, I doubt Elon would hit a trillion. Maybe his company will be. Well, no, Tesla's $1 trillion company, I believe. I think it
Yeah, I
hit
think
it.
that some
So
companies could do that.
yeah, I don't think he would. I don't think he'll see a trillion. What's he at? Probably like 300 billion right now.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I really don't know. I mean, he's just, it's beyond, obviously, he has nothing to worry about financially for
Yeah.
a long time. So,
And he lives in
you
like
know,
a boring house now, right? He got rid of all of his goods. So
and I'm not even sure. Well, someone make a joke about how the guy's a freaking multi-billionaire and he's sleeping on a couch and Doge.
yeah, yeah.
True,
That's just how
He's
some
sick
of those
quiet
guys
every
work.
day.
All right, let's move on to the next article, which was Pope Francis. For those of you that don't know, he had well. First off, had to go to the hospital. He's over $400 billion right now.
What?
Musk. I didn't realize he was at 400 billion.
Oh,
Yeah, sorry, someone said that, and I was like, whoa. I guess that's true, maybe, but
400
anyway,
billion?
yeah, 400. So maybe I still don't think he could do it. Pope Francis had a mild kidney failure and remains in critical condition, Vatican says in the latest. Now, I had to look this up because I was like, let's say he does pass away, unfortunately. Depending on how you feel. Yeah, okay. Well, I wasn't going to say that. Obviously, death's terrible no matter what. He's also 88, but obviously might go down as one of the worst modern day popes. That's besides the fact, because we've definitely had worse popes in the past. But
I don't know. Well, I don't know.
go
Yeah,
back to like the 1200s, Mom. I
I
think
guess
those
so.
were pretty bad.
Yeah, that's true. I'll buy that.
But so we were looking at, because I was curious, Aunt Sue brought it up yesterday. How long do you think the longest cardinal decision was? If you were to guess.
Oh, the longest conclave?
Yeah, how long do you think was the longest conclave?
I
This
think it
blew my
they
mind.
went a really long time. I don't think recently, but I think in like the not medieval times, but I could say like a year maybe.
So I forget, it was like 1200 something,
Yeah.
3 years. So they were
Years.
locked in their room. They ran out of rations and they basically just had to pick people, right?
Yeah.
Pick a person for the Pope.
Yeah.
3 years. Fastest was 2 days, which was, I was also kind of surprised by. I thought that maybe they would pick one in hours because I would think that you would kind of prepare. Like you
What
know,
was the second one when Pope John Paul the First to Pope John Paul the Second?
no, this was a George the 10th or something like that.
Oh, okay, okay.
This is 1200 something. Way, way, way long
Oh,
ago.
okay. Yeah,
So-
that's a while ago.
Yeah, so it was,
The fastest one was
and
that.
that was back when corruption was like at its highest in the Catholic Church. So there was a lot of political tension when they were. I tried to read it, but Aunt Sue said that there's a show right now, I believe called, I think it was Conclave. I think it's called
A
Conclave.
movie. Right?
Yeah, a movie right
Yes.
now that's about the Pope or a cardinal making the decision for who the next Pope's going to be. I might actually watch that. I am curious.
Well, I wouldn't. The process might be true, but I think it's the few reviews I've heard. It's another woke
Oh, is it?
piece of.
Damn. Can we just get freaking
Yeah, no,
movies,
the
please?
process is what it is. Yeah, no, they can't. Especially with you. Really think they're not going to do something woke with the Catholic Church? Come on, wise up.
Good point. Good point. Yeah.
Anything that's.
I just want one just good movie. The Fantastic Four movie's going to tank. The Captain America movie's going to tank. Snow White's already tanked and it hasn't even come out yet.
True to form, there was an article, I want to say at least a year ago, talking about the Italian Cardinal Mafia. And I call it the Mafia because, and I can't think of what the name of it is, but it's as real as you and me standing here, that there's a whole political system that exists in the Catholic Church that influences who gets picked. Bergoglio, Pope Francis, he's a socialist from Argentina, right? From South America. I think he's an Argentinian.
Yep.
He grew up in socialism, total socialism. There's some real shady things in his past as the bishop in that area. And, he was picked for a reason. And they used pressure and whatnot. And then once he got in, they slowly started to retire all the conservative, traditional Catholic cardinals and bishops. And unfortunately, I don't know I'm concerned the shit show that's going to come out of this next conclave based on what we've been learning and the cast of characters that this Pope has put into positions that are not reflective of what the Catholic Church should be made of.
Mo,
Sorry.
how many cardinals are there?
Oh, I have no idea.
Like how many? I'm actually curious because I've never actually looked it up. Like, right, all the cardinals come together to decide the Pope, right? Is it like 2 from every country, or how's that work? How many?
It's based on age because after a certain age you can't vote on the Pope anymore if you're still a cardinal. And there are rules and regs.
252.
Okay. So I don't think all of the college cardinals. I don't think they all. Yeah, 138 are eligible to vote in a conclave to elect a new pope.
Are in each country.
I don't know what the criteria is, like who of those 138 there are.
Cardinal elected.
But honestly, that is basically their job, to pick the pope.
Yes.
That's their job.
So what do they do for the rest of their lives?
Well, bishops are. Well, you met the crazy man. You met Cardinal. What's his name?
I wasn't going to bring that up, but yes, I met a cardinal who ended up being a huge.
One of the biggest disgraces to the Catholic Church we've ever seen. Okay, and he was an advisor to presidents and whatnot in D.C. Right, so he was considered a representative of the church and government. He would advise people in the government. Blah 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 blah. So that's kind of their role. Bishops are the ones that really have, for lack of a better word, the power, in the sense that they run the diocese, they do the money, the bishop appeals, they report to the pope, blah, blah, blah. So the cardinal's biggest job is really just picking a pope and sort of moving the direction of the church with the bishop. So, yeah, this is their big calling. When this one goes, they get put in a little room and you got to watch the smoke come out of the chimney.
Yeah.
White smoke means
it's going to be black smoke for 10 days because they won't be able to decide. After seeing how the church is going, I'm sure a lot of people are not happy. A lot of cardinals probably aren't happy. I don't think they're all.
Well, I don't want to say that it's a coincidence, but given the fact that
here we go,
the Trump administration has been cutting back on a lot of funding for NGOs and a lot of organizations that are running the borders that are making millions and millions of dollars. At the same time that this is like the least popular pope that we've ever had in the Catholic Church since they've been doing polling. And so many people older people, the ones that give the money, like the bishop appeals. If anybody listening is a Catholic, they always send out these things, these folders, and give your money to the church, and it goes to all these different things. Well, nobody's giving anymore, or the money's going down, 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 down. It didn't help when we were learning about all these Catholic people that are letting people in the border. More and more people like, you know what?
I still think Homan had the best answer when Pope Francis was like, America should start letting in open borders, like having open borders and allowing immigrants in. And Homan goes, "Is that coming from the guy that literally has a 100-foot wall around the Vatican?"
Right. And that's my point. Yeah. The guy is one of the worst popes we've ever had. His comments are anti-Catholic from time to time. He brings in people who are, pro-abortion people and puts them on these committees. It's just one, and I don't want to go into detail, but there's a lot of individuals in the church who are very questionable as should they be priests at all, let alone he's elevated them. But my point is, all of a sudden, now he's really sick and he's on death's door. And he even made a comment like 2 weeks ago, I'm not going to live. Okay? I hate to say this, but I think some of these guys know when their number's up because he's either got to retire.
I think he resigned already. I thought he already put in his resignation.
No, I think he's talking about it, or I don't think you have a choice. I think the
Cardinals probably make the decision.
Well, the mafia, basically, whoever's running that Vatican behind closed doors. I got to find the name of it. This is whole, well, they're not even nefarious. They have their own name. It's a group of cardinals that kind of run everything. And I wouldn't say it's Italian, but they made it pretty clear that, this is understood. They're the ones who decide who's going to be the next pope, which is unbelievable because there's 138 people who are supposed to vote on this,
Right.
right? So, having said that, I just think it's pretty coincidental that all of a sudden we start cutting all these fundings to Catholic organizations, and he's not very popular. And yes, he got sick with the flu, which is not good, but he's had worse things, and now all of a sudden he's about to resign. I just
No.
call me a conspiracy theorist, but I think there's more going on here than just him not being well. Although he's never been a well man,
Yeah.
He's been in a wheelchair for a while now. He's had leg issues and whatnot.
Diabetes.
I didn't even know this. He had part of his lung removed a
Yeah.
long time ago. I didn't even know that.
Have y'all ever been to the Vatican in person? No, I would like to go, but I actually don't even care about the Vatican. I want to know what's in that library. Show me what's in that library. The place that popes aren't allowed to go, powerful people aren't allowed to go. There are things in there that will unlock secrets to this world. I know it. Get me in there. I will break into the Vatican if I have to. I don't know if I can say that. That's a joke.
Dear listener, one thing we always wanted to do when everybody was out of school was to take the family and go to Rome, do the Colosseum, do the Vatican. I've always wanted to see the Sistine Chapel because I read The Agony and the Ecstasy, which is all about Michelangelo and the works that he did. And just see all of Rome, just do the whole touristy thing and whatnot. But we decided to get a dog in high school instead, and it makes it very hard for us to go anywhere. Now it's even more difficult because Europe's a shit show right now until they get their act straightened out. But that is one thing I have always wanted to see, the Sistine Chapel. And the Vatican's one thing, but definitely the artwork and the all the stuff that I've read about forever and have never seen. So I think that would be
I love to see what's under the Vatican. It's going to be one or two things: infinite knowledge or a lot of dead bodies. There's really no in between.
The popes are buried down there, right?
I think a couple saints are buried down there too.
Oh yeah, I think Peter's down there.
Oh, I think there's more than that.
No, I know, but he's the head hunt. I mean, he's number one. He's the apostle, the first pope. I think he's in the Vatican.
Does it not bother anyone that no one's allowed down there? Even the Pope? That doesn't so who's allowed to go in there?
Well, do you remember when you did the tour of St. Patrick's Cathedral?
Yep.
And the Italian girl came late. The girl, she's probably like in her 20s. And she says that because I was late, I'm going to give you the special tour downstairs. She took you down and she showed you that was kind of neat, even though it was just St. Patrick's. But she showed you where Kennedy went. And he would meet with the cardinal at the time and pray down where the vestments are and whatnot.
Oh, okay. So this person might have missed something, but right, Mom. First off, no offense taken. And not to sound offensive, but if you are a Christian, why do you think there's some mafia to confirm a pope? I don't believe in anything, but isn't the pope the most important thing? So we were just kind of explaining this. Yeah, it's not offensive at all. But there's 252 cardinals throughout the world who have to decide on the pope. The problem is, based on what my mother was just saying, as Catholics, we can comfortably say this: the church hasn't exactly been the best, especially the Vatican. So there's always been some nefarious things going on in the Vatican. So the Pope, if you really look into it, the Pope's security, the cardinals that are just walking around in the Vatican, there's a lot to it. But when you really look into it, again, as we could say this as Catholics, there's a lot of sketchy shit in the church, especially the Vatican. That's why I want to know what's in that. I want to know what's in that library, Ma. What do I have to do? What do I have to do? Just tell me. I'll do it.
The churches had reached a point. Now, we talked about Peter. So the early church, when Christians were persecuted because, it wasn't that everybody believed in Christ and whatnot. And the church was very brand new. And they were underground, basically. You had to hide to believe in Christ, except for those who went out and preached and whatnot. Those early years were probably probably one of the most interesting times in Christianity. But like anything else, the church, meaning the institution, not what Christ intended, it became a political machine.
Yeah.
Right? Because, the Pope he ruled everything. England,
he was a king, yeah.
Church, the Pope.
Before we had separation of church and state, which a lot of countries now have a form of it, but these kings and queens would go to the church for answers, right? Until Pope
or they needed the
Henry the
Pope's
Third.
blessing to do
Yeah,
anything. And that's why, for instance, we had the Anglican faith because Henry VIII didn't want to go
yeah,
to the
right.
Pope anymore.
And that's why you gotta admit, as crazy as that guy was, he kind of was the stepping stone for separation of church and state, where he was like, I'm gonna make. I don't like your answer. I'm gonna make my own, because he was just divorcing wives left and right.
Well, yeah, well, he wanted the power and he wanted to be able to do what he wanted. He didn't want to answer the church anymore, not just the wife, but for a lot of things, because the Pope,
Yeah,
land wars, crusades. So the church has always had a political element to it.
yeah,
And not just its influence outside, but the Pope was an extreme, he was the most powerful person in the world for probably a couple centuries. And it naturally, these are men that are flawed and
so yeah,
sinned who run the church. You want to think that they would be elevated and try, but so yes, and again, I never really knew it. You knew that there was something fishy, and there's politics involved, because even as a kid, it was always Italian popes, Italian, Italian. It was always an Italian man. When Pope John Paul II, he was Polish. That was such a big deal around the world. And even this Pope, they chose somebody from Argentina. It's usually always been an Italian who's been a Pope. And whoever asked the question, if you look at the history of the church, it was always Italians or Roman. They always were the popes. So they tried to mix it up a little bit. But now when they pick somebody, it's supposed to be because they represent Christ, they've done great works, they would be good leaders, blah, 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 for the faith. Oftentimes there's a political twist to it.
yeah.
Like, why from a socialist country? Why would you get a pope from So there are elements in the church that now that we're all, because remember, we're not uneducated.
Yeah, we now
people.
have access to the information to know what's going on. Like, because error 404 error loading just asked where we're from, and we're from New Jersey. And back in 2014, we had, which is New Jersey's right next to Pennsylvania, the big pedo ring that we found in Pennsylvania of all the priests. Remember that?
Yes.
That was that Alex J was talking about for 5 years, and no one believed him because they told him he was a crazy person. Yeah. And then, the pedo ring was. I remember the hundreds of priests or whatever with young kids. It was ugly. And then we found out that Pope Benedict at the time, right, he was the last pope. Pope Benedict was sending these priests to an island of deaf kids, and these disgusting priests were just able to do the same thing to kids that couldn't even speak. So,
well, there's an archbishop by the name of Vigano who's been excommunicated by this current pope.
Just so you know, the church already hates us. If they say this podcast, we're screwed. Yeah. But yeah.
So Vigano has asked Trump to have the CIA do an AI on what happened to Benedict, because he feels like Benedict got a bad rap and it was done on purpose.
Yeah, maybe.
That was going on in the church. So just as an aside, I mean, Benedict was old school and a lot of these bishops covered it up, et cetera, et cetera. The interest, and that just goes to show back to what the person was saying about pedophilia. For anybody who watches the news, it's disgusting what's going on in our public schools. Okay? It dwarfs what happened in the Catholic Church in terms of numbers, just because of the sheer number of kids in public schools versus Catholic schools and whatnot. But the point is, because it's the takedown of the Catholic Church. And I think that was one of the biggest things that de-elevated the church, rightly so. These individuals who were abusing their power as a priest. And, when we were younger, it was different. If the priest told you to do something, you did it. He would
Right.
never do anything wrong. Not saying me personally, but a lot of parents, when you read stories about these poor kids who were abused by priests, they would say, "Yeah, I went on a camping trip with the priest," or something like that. And most people today would say, who the hell would send their kid with a strange man? You just did it. You just trusted these people because they were from the Catholic Church. That's what makes it doubly bad.
Right.
But trust me, they have them in the Muslim faith, the imams. They have it in the Jewish faith. They have it in these cults.
There's bad people everywhere. Yeah. This is an
And
interesting question. You ready, Mom? Just a question. You seem to love separation between church and state, but as an EU guy, it seems your current government seems to be combining church and state. How do you feel about it? it's not combining church and state at all. It is actually a law you can't. I think when other countries hear separation of church and state, first off, you have to give me an example. But the definition of separation of church and state is literally politics and church cannot combine. So like you can't really make, well, there's a lot of things, but you can't make a bill and say because God said so. That's kind of the idea. Also, there's a lot of tax benefits as a church, but that's not.
What?
Well, go ahead.
In answer to his question, going further back from my point of view is, our country is
Could be a
based on
woman, you never know.
Judeo-Christian beliefs. In God we trust. It says it on all our money. Most courtrooms will say, something in God we trust, or
Right.
something to the effect of God. Our Bill of Rights, our laws are based on Christian ideals. You don't commit murder, right?
Yep.
You don't steal from somebody. Our society is based on Judeo-Christian. So when atheists and whatnot get all bent out of shape over stuff, that's what our country is based on. We tolerate other religions. The word tolerate meaning you can practice whatever religion you want, or you can practice no religion. What you can't do is you can't infringe upon another person's religion.
Right.
So doing things like, we keep public schools separate. Okay? You can't
have theology.
You used to pray in in public schools. They used to say the Pledge of Allegiance, one nation under God, indivisible. Well, the atheists got crazy over that. My kid doesn't believe in God. They shouldn't have to say it. That's your separation of church and state. Interestingly enough, churches, Catholic Church especially, but churches have tax exempt status.
Right.
They're not allowed to stand at the pulpit and say, you have to vote for Donald Trump because he represents the Catholic ideal, or you have to vote for Kamala Harris. They're not allowed to do that, or they will lose their tax exempt status. So oftentimes people in a church will say more, you should look for a leader who represents our ideals. Right. So that's also part of separation of church and state.
Right.
However, you cannot fire somebody because he's a Catholic. That's religious discrimination. Right. That's our First Amendment. You can't fire somebody because they're Muslim, right? So to say that there's no religion in our government is not true. Religion is a protected right.
You have the right to have your own religion. So when they say, back in 1800s, early 1900s, when they say, in God we trust, even though it comes from the Catholic faith, it means kind of any, or Christian faith. It could mean any God. So if you're here's a question, Mom. And I think, so if, let's say you're a Muslim and you go to court and you have to swear on the Bible, do you swear on the Quran?
I believe that they are given that option.
Oh, okay.
But that is why right now so many Muslim countries don't want our laws. They want Sharia law.
Yeah, which is...
And that goes against our Constitution. No law is above the Constitution. So if you want Sharia law, there's plenty of countries over in, the Middle East that practice that. That's not good enough. They want it here. That's another reason why, we make a point of saying there's a separation. And no, I'm not going to answer to Sharia law. I'm not a Muslim.
Right.
And you can't have different laws in a country. It just doesn't work that way. You need one supreme law, and ours is the Constitution.
Right.
So,
which is founded on Christian ideology, for the most part.
Right.
Well, but
that's literally why we came here. The Pilgrims came because they were being persecuted religiously. They had money. They had a nice life over there, but they were being told that they had to be Anglicans or they had to be certain faiths. And they got in ships and they came here. And war came because they were being persecuted. Catholics were hated in this country. They didn't want Catholics here because they were papists. They followed that evil pope.
Right, at the time.
So it was Christians who came here first. The Protestants. I mean, we're basically a Protestant Christian country. When the Catholics came, the Catholics made a point of education. They started all the schools. And then if you were Catholic, you had to send your kid to a Catholic school because, first of all, you're persecuted if you went to another school because you were a dirty Catholic. So that's why it was a big deal. By the time when Kennedy became president, he was the first Catholic president. They were dirty Irish Catholics. Nobody liked the Catholics when they first came. So they were discriminated against, but they made a name for themselves by education, and they built these schools up, and you had to send your kid there. And that's kind of how all these dioceses and areas grew, as more Catholics and immigrants from Ireland and Catholic countries
Right.
came over. So yeah, so it's not really even that we're based on Catholic ideals. It's mostly Christian, and which is the same but different. Christian and Judeo, the Jewish faith too.
Gotcha. Yeah. Any other questions? Those are some good questions. The deep ones. We don't really get religious questions, but usually we don't go down this road. Otherwise, we can
Yeah.
move on. But it's weird for me that Americans hate immigrants. That's not true. Well, they're immigrants. No. So that's probably the biggest misconception. No one's anti-immigration. They're anti-illegal immigration. Big difference. Tons of my friends are immigrants. So again, that's like a false narrative that news says, right? We have a great immigration policy when it works, but it's when illegal immigrants come in.
Well, we've never had a good immigration policy, right? And we've always had to do executive orders. Like the first time Trump did all these executive orders because Congress will not sit their ass down. And I remember early on with our podcast, I said they'll never solve it
No,
because
never.
they
Yeah.
keep going on it you'll see every time. We're going to be talking about immigrants. This is if for nothing else, the last 4 years when people saw, all right, this is what happens when you let everybody in. For all the people that wanted that, are you happy? And the American people decided, no, we're not happy with this. We don't
Right.
want everybody coming in. We need to control it. So now you have the other extreme where now we got to shut it down.
Yeah, because it got
But
too
we
out of control. And then people tried to force their way in, which you can't do. So, yeah.
well, and it's affecting the minorities in this country, and it's now affecting the majority in this country.
Yeah.
Jobs are
So between
scary.
illegal immigration and AI taking everything over, there's not much time left.
Well, and that's why they say you got to get these people out. And in all fairness, there are plenty of people, wonderful immigrants, who have waited 10 years to become citizens. It's not fair to them that somebody just comes over the border and gets all these things that they never got,
Right.
freebies, just to fill them in this country. And they have no buy-in.
You don't want illegal immigrants. We got the same in the EU. Well, yeah, the EU, I didn't want to say it to you, but the EU is falling apart. The EU, I mean, unfortunately, the way we get information, I don't know how it is in other countries, but I know a lot of your information suppressed. EU is kind of on borrowed time. But be honest, you guys are bad in telling that message. Well, yeah, because, it's not even when you say us, it's really just our politicians, because watching our politicians try and yell at each other about immigration, to your point, the message never gets across that you're pro-immigration, just not illegal immigration. So, yeah. But
we are a country of immigrants. I mean, that
exactly.
Our country is made up of immigrants. I'm a child of immigrants. Christopher is a child of immigrants. Our family came, from overseas. There aren't as many people as you would think anymore that came over in the Mayflower. There are those people in this country, but most of this country is made up of immigrants. But, when my grandmother came, she went through Ellis Island. She had to stay there. She had her eyeballs checked. She was poked. She was prodded. She earned coming here. Did she want to leave her home country? No, but she knew that she had opportunities here. Not that stuff was going to be handed to her. There's a difference between that type of immigrant and other immigrants who, not their fault, but they're like, hey, you're going to give me a free cell phone, a car? I'm going to go to school and get health care, and it's all free? Of course I'm going to come. But as we know, nothing's free. Somebody's got to pay for that. And now you're asking to pay paperwork that they don't even get that themselves.
Yeah. EU is fine. We got some problems, but it's not that bad. I have a lot of friends in the EU. Every single one of them's trying to get out. It's bad, dude.
Well, the EU is
a big state, but it depends. Like most of them are England.
EU is the UK.
Yeah.
It's France. It's all the Western. Okay, so whoever's saying this, watch JD Vance's speech.
Yeah, of how
and
bad
listen
it's
to
gotten.
the response from the leaders of those countries. Today, Germany was going to have an election.
Yeah.
And the Conservative Party was trending to win. I don't know what the outcome was. I haven't had a chance because the people in Europe are fed up with the migrants that have come in. It's outright lawlessness over there.
They didn't win, they said.
What's
I
that?
guess they didn't win. The
They
Conservatives.
didn't win? Okay.
Oof.
Well,
Ooh, ow.
I think that it's reaching a tipping point over there because the conservative parties in all parts of the EU, and they're freaking out, the EU, because the people are turning on it. They don't want this in their streets. It's not about economics. It's about cars being driven into people going to the store. And last week there were how many attacks with knives? And they were
Yeah.
mostly
German.
people screaming Allah Akbar and stabbing little children and people just walking in a park. Nobody wants to live like that anymore.
Yeah. Conservative. Oh wait. No, they won. Conservative opposition wins German election.
The AFD? Is it the AFD? Yeah, I haven't looked at the news at all
No,
today.
it says. Wait, what? I have one thing saying it did 36 minutes ago, and then I have one that says it didn't. It says what's
Well,
CDU? CDU CSU. Not all votes
you
have
have to
been
remember
counted.
that.
It says.
Okay. It's called Alternative for Germany, the AFD. That's the conservative
How do you know
party,
that?
if you will. The AFD?
Yeah, how do you know that? God, how do you just pull that out?
Well, I just do. But I'm looking at a headline right now. German election: the conservatives are projected to win, and the far right AFD in second. So remember, they're not like the United States over there. Same thing in UK and in Germany and France also. It's usually they form coalitions. Okay, so we only have two parties, maybe
Yeah.
independent and the Green Party and whatnot. Theirs works differently. So what they do is they have consortiums. So all the conservatives win, not one party. So, like right now, Nigel Farage in the UK, he formed a party. They are dominating right now in a lot of polling. They haven't had an
Oh.
election yet, but they wind up joining with, say, the Scottish German Conservative Party and the Scottish or the Irish Middle Party. That's how they win
How does
a
that work?
consensus.
I'm looking at it and how it works. They have like a thing. Here, hold on. I'll throw it up real fast for those. It's gonna cover our faces a little bit, but depending on what you're watching. So if you're on TikTok, this is gonna look a little weird, but it looks like I'll cover my face. It looks like this, and then it has. I know mom can't see it, but dude,
It's
it's
even more political than we have because you have to form coalitions, and that's how you gain power. And then the conservative groups, I'm generalizing, but then the conservative groups together, they pick a leader. It's usually somebody who's been leading the most
that
conservative
is a
party.
wild way of making that work. But yes, I see. So right, so the
Yeah,
two conservative ones right now are in the lead, and then
right.
this is the left leaning one. So yeah, I don't see how it would be possible for the left to win that one.
Right. So
But
they have
I don't know how it
all
works. So
multiple factions in these countries. It isn't just a Democrat and Republican. They have different, you get the Scottish, Irish, the Scottish Republican,
yeah,
and then you get the People's Republic of Scotland, and they have all these different groups, and they form these consensus.
yeah.
And that's why it's even more of a movement. We have the MAGA movement. They have the conservative movement that's picking up steam. Germany's big because if anybody remembers Angela Merkel, when she was the chancellor over there,
It always amazes
she
me
was
how
like,
my mom
"Oh,
just
we
fucking
want
pulls
more
this shit out.
migrants. Everybody come and come
yeah,
come to our country." And now they're seeing the pain of it.
yeah. So
And
one thing that we talked about in the last podcast is ever since Trump won, you're starting to see the right wave come in all these countries. So, I mean, to
right.
my mom's point, it looks like the Conservative Party is going to win by a landslide in Germany. So, again, based on, I'm just looking at percentages. I don't know how Germany works, but like I'm kind of understanding based on these percentages that I'm looking at. But yeah, very strange how that works. But I see.
Well, I have a friend from Scotland, an old friend,
Yeah.
and she came here years ago before her oldest son was born, and she's still a Scottish citizen. And she would say to me, long before the first Trump presidency and long before Biden opened our borders, she would say that we get many migrants in our country and immigrants coming in. The problem she would have with them is they don't assimilate,
She was far
meaning
from the.
they
Yeah, we're
don't
talking
embrace the Scottish way. They don't want to be part of it. They want to bring their culture in. So that mentality has been going on a lot longer than we even here in the United States, because we are immigrants. We're used to it. But we're used to most immigrants wanting to be here and wanting to become citizens and wanting, not having things handed to them. In her case, she was seeing long before we were
Yeah,
seeing
how bad it was
what
getting.
we now see now. And the people in the EU have been living with this even longer. And they've been told forever, oh, we have to take them, we have to take them. And now the citizens are pushing back. We accepted them. We put them in our schools. We told them you could be Germans. They don't want to be Germans. They want to take over the
Right.
culture of Germany. That's what these places are seeing. And the United States, for if you agree with it or not, they're setting the example of, all right, we're going to show you what it means to shut down the border. Our border is essentially shut down right now.
Yeah.
I think there's like 200 people coming over. So now it's the process of showing that let's bring law and order back to these cities, to these, areas, and clean up the sense that keep the people who want to assimilate. If you want to be here, you want to buy into it, we want you. If you're just coming to stab people and rape women, walking,
Can't
jogging
use
across,
that word on YouTube, Mom. Thanks for that. Can't
sorry,
bleep it.
I'm sorry, sorry, I forgot. If you want to cause trouble, then that's a problem. That's not what we want here. That's exactly what's going over in Europe right now.
I gotta
We're all
start.
seeing it.
I gotta start giving you the warning because they take away our monetization. Mom, I won't be able to eat if you say words like that.
Well, I'll send you money.
I gotta make my mom feel bad when she starts using the big words.
You have to remind me of that before
Yeah.
we do these live podcasts, because I do forget.
Ma, because
I
of
forget
you,
all
I
the
can't eat tomorrow. Thanks.
God.
She was fine. Yeah, my mom said that she was not a conservative. The German lady you were talking about.
Oh, Merkel?
No, was it Merkel?
Angela Merkel?
Yeah, Merkel was a right party, but she wasn't right.
No. Well,
She's a rhino, our version of a rhino.
Yeah, kind of
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, she was. Yes.
Yeah. Any other questions before we move on to less political stuff?
Nothing that's gonna make me say banned words.
Yeah. Like when my mom's like, they have rights now. I'm like, Ma, you can't. Ma, you can't be throwing that out.
Oh,
Marco
please,
is and
come on.
was still right wing. Yeah, but so is Mitch McConnell. He's right wing too, but he makes every left decision. That guy's gotta go. Just because you're labeled as right doesn't mean you make decisions that are conservative.
Well, our labeling is changing in this country.
Yeah.
Over the last 8 years, we've seen a whole different political party emerge, and they're calling it a MAGA party. It goes back to the Tea Party.
Yeah.
Long before Donald Trump
It's
came
true,
down
too.
the escalator. This has been percolating in our nation for quite a while now. And it's starting to expose people who claim to be a certain way and they're really not. So our definitions of what a conservative and a liberal is they're really changing now. What a moderate is.
Yeah. Well,
it's
just go
taking
back to the
over-
70s, 80s. Most Democrats back then would be considered conservative to this day, and vice versa. Remember?
I would say even more. I would say the 60s.
60s, 70s.
The Kennedys were considered moderate Democrats back then. Now, I wouldn't say that, but
It's simple. USA right wing has different opinions for a right wing party. What right wing? Well, yeah. I mean, it depends on the laws and I mean, every country's going to be different, but you still have like a fundamental definition in every country what you would consider right and left. But again, unfortunately, you don't have anything down the middle anymore. You used to have independent, but independent's kind of, I mean, now it's like even that party, I would say, is more conservative now than it's ever been.
well, similar to what we're saying about the EU, when we were just talking about Germany and how they have all these different factions. Okay,
Yeah.
we are seeing that in our country now. There are different degrees of Republicans. There's the Freedom Caucus. There's the the Mitch McConnell, the Rhinos. We have our own little pockets that we've come up with the names. They don't officially call themselves.
Right.
I mean, the Freedom Caucus. There's the Black Caucus. There's a group of representatives who just feel like they want to form a specific caucus just representing a certain group. You have that in different parties now. We're starting to see that. There are moderate Democrats. There are extreme, we call it the, what they call it, the five, the women.
The View.
No.
The View Party. Whoopi Goldberg.
AOC and what's her name?
I don't even
Presley
know.
and Ilhan Omar. Anyhow, there's that group in the Democratic Party. There are all different groups that are forming. It's still just two basic parties,
Yeah.
but
Well, there's more
and
than
then we
two. You have the independent, but an independent hasn't won in how 100 years plus. When was the last time an independent won presidency? Has it ever happened?
we have senators who have been independents,
Yeah, but
and
I
we
mean
have
presidency.
now. No, because it comes down to money.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's why they need the backing of somebody, and that's why you still have the two parties. But that's my point. Politics is always on a spectrum,
Yeah.
whether it's the EU or America. Even back in the times of Jefferson and all right. So here's an example: Jefferson and Adams were both considered for a while they're in the same party, and they argued about a lot of stuff. They didn't agree with the degree of stuff within the party, and then it splintered off, and we had different forms of governments.
So, okay. Hold on, let me read this. Now, I gotta be honest. We can blame immigrant. We okay. It's our fault. We invited immigrant workers back in the days with the idea. Let's send them back when we don't need them. I think that's called slavery, but whatever. Let's send them back when we don't need them, but we never send them back because they always needed them for work. The idea was we need them and send them back when we don't need them anymore, but we still need them. Well, I mean, it comes down to just cheap labor. I mean, that's really what you're trying to say. Because when you look at how much stuff's outsourced, when you look at, I mean, look at, uh, what's a good company? I mean, Nike. They outsource everything to China, like there's 8-year-olds that work for 8 cents a day making my Nikes. So yeah, the reason is and why big corporations are usually left leaning, as we've talked about many times on the podcast, they love open borders because these people want the benefits of these immigrants who can't get paid on paper anyway. So pay them the cheapest because they can't complain and get the work done if you want to
There's a
stay.
misconception here. The immigration problem of the last few years was over the border. And the concern with that is we were allowing people in, regardless of work. They were not being vetted. Many of them had criminal records,
Yeah,
or they had no records at all.
which is
And
even more dangerous.
literally, some of these countries were opening up their prisons and sending them to our border because why should we pay for these criminals, dump them on the U.S., and let them deal with it because their president says, come on in. And that's what they did. And our crime in certain cities went through the roof.
Yeah.
The bigger issue is the H-1B visas. The
Yeah.
students who come here and never leave.
Who end up being Chinese spies. Have you seen what percentage of Chinese students are Chinese, like CCP? It's kind of wild. It's like
They
3%.
use our system. I mean, they're, for lack of a better word, we have issues with the Chinese Communist Party. We are at odds with them. Let's put it that way. Their goal is to take over as much of this world that they can. And they're going to infiltrate if you give them. I mean, they're always in a war stance. Like it or not, that's the reality. The Communist Party is always looking to infiltrate. That's their goal.
Yeah.
We want to spread democracy. They want to spread communism. And if they can get into our country, they will. So our policies and plans allow it.
Yeah. Well, hold on. This is a pretty good way of putting it. But in general, we invite good people, of course, but we didn't integrate them into our values, and now we don't. And now we have problems that don't match our values. Yeah, because a lot of these people come from countries that have different values, trying to find a new life, and they're like, "Nah, I'm not doing that shit." And then, like, if you have a country of, let's say, literally say it's okay to murder in this country to get to stand or whatever, we'll make it up, and then they come to your country to have a new life, and you say, hey, murder's not allowed, and they go, well, I don't like that because my country used to allow it. That's not how shit works. That's like going to your friend's house who has rules that the parents lay out, and your friend breaks all those rules. Your friend's a piece of shit. It's a piece of shit.
Right.
It's a basic concept, yeah.
But if you bring more of those individuals in,
Yeah, and now you have more people than the house can hold up.
There's power in number, and that's why you have areas of our country now where they are trying to enact Sharia law.
Yeah.
And that's against our Constitution. But when you say that, you know what happens? You're a racist. You don't like Muslims. No, that's not that. We don't allow Sharia law here. We don't allow there's some Judea law, but the overriding law is the Constitution. Well, they don't like that because they don't have equal rights. Women don't have the same rights as men in these other countries. Their children are treated, everyone's treated
Yeah.
differently.
I mean, go to
And we take
Dubai.
that for
Dubai, I
granted.
mean, yeah.
Right. If you want to come here, great, but you have to embrace, even if you don't love our laws, you have to follow our laws. And you can't bring more people in with the idea that we're going to change your laws.
Yeah,
And that's
that
what
was just a
started.
crazy idea. Your friend comes to your house and they're going to start making the rules. That's just not how. I mean, yeah, common sense. No, okay, no offense. Did you vote for Trump and accept? Yeah, I mean, everyone did. I mean, he was the way better option than Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris sucked. They asked if we voted for Trump and Elon, but you didn't really. You don't vote for Elon, but
Well, they might have been trying to make a point. Everyone's trying to make it sound like, oh, Elon, blah, blah, blah.
yeah, which we were
Everyone
just talking about before. It is a weird how much we're seeing of Elon. Like,
well, let me just point something out to everybody because your age group might be a lot younger, obviously, than I am. Back in the time of Bill Clinton, he decided I need to have I want to do healthcare. I want to really look at it, and I want to appoint somebody. Exactly what Donald Trump did with Elon Musk. The person was not elected.
old
They
musky.
were not, they didn't go before a confirmation committee. They went in and they were in charge of our healthcare, and they wound up doing a crappy job. Do you know who that person was?
Healthcare. I'm trying to think. Healthcare in the early 2000s. Well,
I'll
no,
tell you. No, it's before that.
95 probably.
He was in the after Reagan, so the 90s. I'll tell you, it was Hillary Clinton.
Oh, it was Hillary. He made his own wife
Yes.
the head of
So
healthcare.
for all these people screaming about Elon Musk, okay? Every president has done it. But I want to give you that she had not been second. She was not elected to any position at that point in her life. All she was the governor's wife who became the first lady. And he decided to put her in charge of our entire healthcare system and try and rework it. And it was a mess. She couldn't even do it. It was just a mess. It wound up not doing anything, disbanded, and the rest is history. But for all the individuals, and there's others, I just know she's the most well known of a lot of people, exactly like Elon Musk,
Yeah.
right? She didn't stay in her lane either, which
Yeah.
worked out well for her.
Well, I hope I hope Doge goes through some of the Clinton stuff pretty soon. They're gonna overturn some skeletons there. Yeah, but Trump and Musk seem to be supporting Russia at the moment. America is known for hating Russia. Ooh, no. So, I mean, you're getting into the Ukraine war. I mean, I think, well, first off, there's a lot of factors to that. I don't know if supporting Russia is the right word. I think you're just trying to get a war to stop, and Zelensky doesn't have any power to stop the war, so that's why you go to Putin, because he's the one that's going to stop the war. But if you know the history of why this whole war started, technically Putin did have the right, not even technically. I mean, Ukraine broke the peace pact, leaving the USSR, trying to go to, well, yeah, is it technically USSR, trying to go into NATO?
We were past that. They wanted
Yeah.
they wanted to put into NATO.
Yeah, so Ukraine ended up breaking that treaty. So again, that was the rule. So Putin had every right to go into Ukraine. Probably didn't do it the right way. I think we can all agree on that. But I mean, from a war standpoint, I mean, technically Ukraine broke their treaty. So you do it that way you will. It's not our laws. That's just how that works.
You can't underestimate the fact that there were shenanigans going on with our government that we do not know yet with Ukraine.
Which is going to be completely.
There's a reason why Putin did not advance on Ukraine the first time Trump was in office. There's a reason why Putin did it
when
the
Biden
next
Biden was in. Yeah.
Because they were being allowed to do things in Ukraine. And again, there's a lot of question marks as to what was the relationship with Ukraine and that administration, right? We still don't know what was going on.
Yeah.
I will say this, we do have a hand in the United States in the mess that happened in Ukraine. And it's not good. And I don't believe the citizens in our country wanted it. It was being done by unelected officials
Absolutely.
who got involved in the political we do that too often as a nation. We've had too many presidents who want to get involved in regime change, and we're finding that with Doge. They're uncovering money that is being used as, quote unquote.
Well, you saw Zelensky said like they didn't get $100 billion or something like that. Remember the billions that we gave? And Zelensky's like, so again, that's completely on America, but where'd that money go?
Well, and that's Zelensky using his leverage to say, I know where it went.
Yeah, smart.
I know where it went.
Again, the good thing is, I think this war is going to come to an end pretty soon. The question is, what's going to be traded off? Because it's going to come down. Every war ends in a certain amount of territory being given somewhere or taken.
And do you know what they're negotiating right now in general? Exactly what was negotiated 2 years ago.
Yeah.
1 million men had to die.
Yeah, which is a shame, yeah. But
and that's politics for you.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with land, has nothing to do with people want or don't want, whether they're Russian or Ukrainian. That's just pure politics, murdering people. That's what it comes down to. And it has to stop. At least in our part, I would like to see us get out of a lot of stuff that we seem to put our hands in other nations. I don't, we said a long time ago, Chris, I don't care about Ukraine. Our border was being overrun.
Yeah, we had other problems. And they're not even part of our, well, the real issue is why are we getting involved at all? They're not an ally, right? We were doing it out of the kindness of our hearts. Great, but we don't have 100 billion plus to give to people, right? We're already 34 trillion in debt, arguably lower now, but yes, we know the history very well.
Right, because we stir a hornet's nest. The U.S. has a habit of doing that. And we did it with a country that's one of the most corrupt countries in the world.
Yeah.
You do that for a reason. And for people questioning what Doge is doing, whether you like it or not, you better, and if you don't think it's true, what they're uncovering, it's worth taking the time to research it because it's explaining to you why we get into these messes.
I'm excited to go through the Pentagon. Once they go through the Pentagon, Mom, it's going to, like, that. Again, I would rather us solve our problems first and see where we've been getting screwed for the last 100 years before we start looking into other stuff. But again, the Ukraine war, again, it's a shame. Obviously, deaths are terrible, but it's something we should have never gotten involved in. And arguably, the only reason we got involved in it was because Biden's freaking son was an executive over there at an oil company.
Keep in mind, with J.D. Vance in his speech, one of his comments was, why do we give money to defend Germany when they don't defend free speech? Now, let's back that up a minute. Why am I giving money to Germany at all for their defense? Why does the U.S. do that?
Are they an ally? I don't know all the allies. Yeah.
Part of NATO. It's part of
Right.
funding. It's part of
If it's part of
everything.
NATO, then I get it. But to your point, it's the U.S. puts in more money for NATO, but we never get anything returned. So it's like, why are we doing this? Which is why we pull out of it every time Trump's in office.
More money. And to his point, we're these allies of ours. Are they really allies? They don't support the things that we
do,
support
yeah.
anymore. So why am I giving NATO money? And I agree. And next, let alone our servicemen going over there and fighting. So personally, I'm at that point after I see all the waste, fraud, and corruption, and I see what's going on. And Germany has the right to decide their own future. I'm not going to tell them.
Yeah,
if they
it's their
should be
country. Do what you want. But
democratic, whatever.
yeah.
But if I'm paying for it, you're damn right I have
the
a
only
say.
reason for America to get involved in any other country is because we're going to get something out of it. That's really what it comes down to. Otherwise, we probably don't care.
Well, it's an offshoot of world wars
Yeah.
and things in the past. So yeah, you have to have each other's back, right?
Of course.
We have Israel's back. But it's supposed to be a shared experience. And for anybody, who's studied history, they were all losing World War I until America got dragged into it. They were all losing World War II until the U.S. came in and saved them. We keep saving their asses over there. I mean, to their credit, they fight hard, they do their best, but every time it's literally our blood that goes over there and has saved them.
You got to admit, Canada did help us towards the end there in World War II. Canada came in. They came in strong and they helped us towards the end. Give us that
Right,
push.
but turn the tide.
Right.
Similar to us with our revolution. The French came in.
But
the French didn't help us until we proved that we could beat America, UK,
Yeah.
Great Britain. And we started to win some major battles, and then the French came in and,
Wiped it.
we finished
Yeah.
the job. Right. Same thing with NATO. We formed an alliance because we learned 2 times. All it takes is for a Hitler and a couple of the Mussolini, a couple of bad guys, to wreak havoc
Yeah.
over there in the EU. And right now, they're spending more money bringing in migrants that are killing their people and doling it out. If they were attacked, we're the ones who are going to get stuck going because, again, why? If you want to bring them in, fine. But I have to agree with the vice president.
I
I don't want
still
to pay for it.
I still think NATO's a waste now. I think NATO's such a waste. We put too much money into it for very little in return, and we pay more than anyone else, and yet they still ask us for stuff and blame us for stuff. So, I'm completely. I don't care if it was Biden in or Kamala in. Get us out of NATO. It's fucking useless.
Or make everybody have an equal
Share,
share.
yeah, but it's never gonna
And
happen.
literally, I don't blame these other countries. They're getting a free ride. The U.S. has been pumping money into them for how long now? And finally, somebody has said, why are we putting in all this money?
Yeah, yeah.
And you guys aren't. You're not third world countries. This is the UK.
This is
And
where
man,
it pays to have a businessman in office because you can see the money slashing, like where we're wasting it, and that's a good one. So, just because oh, that's not true at all. She said like, no offense, you try to hate us for not directly defending us. The only reason the U.S. exists is because the EU country helping you guys. I, there's never been a time.
why not?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't know where that comes from,
I
but
mean, what?
yeah, you gave us Meghan Markle. Thanks.
No, you can have her back.
Yeah, please
And
take her back.
more.
All right, let's move on. Just because we talked about that for like literally 45 minutes. But 16-year-old Californian teen stays awake during heart surgery. I read this and I was like, what the hell? I was
Yeah.
thinking like, I used to be good with, uh, like blood and whatever. Now when I see it in like UFC fights, I'm fine with that. I can see it. But in person, I'm like, when I see a broken bone now, when it's broken, like compound fracture or something,
Grosses me
I'm
out,
like,
right?
I get woozy. So I'm just thinking,
Yeah.
imagine being up and being like, yo, doc, can I see the open heart? I feel like I would instantly pass out. If I was looking at my open chest,
Well, that's not what it is, right? That's
yeah.
not what the
I know.
procedure
I'm
was.
just thinking, I'm like, because that's what instantly came to mind. I was like,
The first thing I want to say, I don't know, do you have the picture of the
I
article up for
do.
them to say this?
Yeah.
All right. I'm laughing before I even talk about the article. Look at that picture. Everybody else is in a masking gown except for this one
There's
woman.
one lady here. I'll show it to everyone. Look at this. She's just like, I'm having fun here.
Like, why would she have to put surgical garb? But anyhow,
She looks like
I
she's
just
just enjoying the music, but also it looks like they're doing it in front of a bunch of people.
sure, but why is everybody else in it but not? She just looks really weird. The
Yeah.
other person not anything
Unless
on.
it's like a, well, it can't be a demonstration. It has to be the real thing.
It's the thing. So his name is Ian Long. He's 16 years old. When he was younger, he developed, or they found that he had an arrhythmia. Arrhythmia is a normal heartbeat, right? And after they did some more checking on this arrhythmia, it turns out he was diagnosed with ventricular tachycardia. So
Tachycardia.
apparently, it is life threatening. It causes the heart to beat really fast.
Right.
Okay. I don't know that he noticed it, but they never knew he had this, and all of a sudden it became an issue. So they wound up. He was in New Jersey. They wound up moving out west. There was no genetic link to this. There was no structural issues. They have no idea why. I'm not going to go into conspiracy theories and why.
Well, it's got to be
I
a.
know
Oh, I would think that would be a brain problem, right? I would think that the brain would, something about the brain's not connecting to the heart properly, which is why the.
no, there's actual tissue there that's causing it. Reason
Oh,
being,
oh,
his was severe. He had a 25% abnormal beat.
oh. So
They
it's
tried
it's
to
more than just the rhythm being off.
right. It's an abnormal beat, but something was causing it because this is how they were able to treat it. They tried medication, no good, didn't do anything. So that's when they decided to do this oblation, which is not uncommon. Like a lot of
Right.
older people with heart attacks, what they do is they pass a catheter through a blood vessel in the leg.
Right.
Maybe some people know somebody who's had that. Goes all the way up to the heart, and then they treat. They burn or freeze the tissue that causes the
Right.
problem. So there's an anomaly there that's causing it. some tissue or something that creates this arrhythmia that forces the heart
Right.
to beat more. Okay. They did give him some sedation, so he wasn't
Dude,
knocked
that's
out.
just thinking about that makes me so woozy. Like,
But
fuck.
you know why they do
Ugh.
that? They have to do that because to figure out where the arrhythmia is, even though it's guided, they needed to be doing that. And if you
Right.
put somebody under, the heart slows
Damn.
down. So it would be so much harder to find it. So they could have done it, but it would have taken longer. And the kid, to his credit, was like, all right, keep me awake, do what you got to do. And by doing that, they mildly sedated him. They were able to go in, they were able to see it right away, which saved a lot of time and effort. And they were able to get it out as soon as possible, whatever. He went from 25% to 0.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh.
As of right now, I mean, as of this article, he's doing fine.
Good.
Yeah. So it's just
That's
amazing.
still,
Yeah.
ugh. That's, oof. That makes me go.
But I would
Hello,
just
why
like
do
to
you
note
try
to
to?
all your listeners that
Oh.
these are the types of, I don't always bring political stuff.
Yeah. No, someone said, why do you
Political.
try to ignore history? That's not, we just moved on to a different article. We can't talk about the same thing for 45 minutes. We can do more questions at the end when we tie everything together, but
Yeah.
even I don't want to talk politics the whole time.
I love history, by the way,
yeah.
whoever said that. I
My
love
mom reads
history.
more historical books than freaking anyone I know. It's annoying.
Yeah,
It was annoying going through school growing up.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, that's awesome though. No, good for him. Now this one I saw and I thought you'd be so visualizing ultra processed food consumption. Yeah, sorry I should have sent you the articles because I forgot that I don't get to share them with you on the live podcast. But it's going through all the ultra food processed foods. So
Right.
obviously the US and the UK are the highest by a mile. So 58% of the adult diet, it's already 9:30 if you have to take Bo out.
It's okay. My weight just fell and he's freaked. We all it just rolled off for no reason.
uh, so 58 to and so 58% of the US diet and 57% of the UK diet is processed foods. Now, I was wondering, like, obviously processed foods are a big problem in general, but I was amazed to see how, like, when you look at the other countries, so in third place, Australia's 40%, which is still not great, but I was also amazed that Italy, the land of the carbohydrates,
Yeah.
is the lowest at 18%.
Oh.
So I've heard this, but apparently Italian pasta, it's completely different. It's not processed at all. I don't know what they do. One of the reasons I want to go to Italy, but apparently the pasta there is just completely different.
No, they make it fresh. They're not going to buy packaged stuff, the Italians.
I guess that's
you know.
true, right? But if you were to do it here, fresh, I feel like it would still have preservatives in it because you don't realize how many things are in
Well, egg and flour and
Yeah, but even like
flour.
yeast here, the yeast packets,
Yeah.
those have preservatives in them. Everything has. It's amazing how many things have preservatives in them. Even if you get a head of broccoli from some of these places, unless it's organic, it's still gonna be processed somehow. I was like, what?
Yeah, unless you do the fresh organic.
Yeah, which is a bajillion dollars. Someone was telling me they only buy organic, and I was like, how much are your groceries? $200 a week. I was like, a week for one person?
Well, I've been buying more organic stuff just because of the I never sent you that article. This nutritionist with Jillian Michaels. She
Right.
testified before Congress about her stomach issues and how, there's basically our food is just crap. It's
Yeah.
literally they process the hell out of it. And what was it? A fertilizer company, because somebody took them to court, class action lawsuit. They got out of the fertilizer business, decided to go to the food business. Well, I don't want companies that make fertilizer killer or a weed killer to be working on my
pesticide
food.
killer. Yeah, oof.
Right. And so there's some real issues that I hope that the next HHS secretary starts looking at.
Well-
The food pyramid's been garbage for decades. I mean, it's just so
Yeah.
bad.
Oh, I mean, we thought breakfast was good for you for 50 years, and then we find out breakfast is terrible for you. Well, all the carbs, cereals. Ugh.
Well, and it depends on what you're having, right?
Well, milk in
it's-
general is not fantastic for you.
Well, there's pluses to milk, but not nothing to excess. However,
It's all fat.
it's not really the issue so much isn't what you're eating anymore.
It's how
It's
much.
how it's processed.
Well, the
No,
big
not
one,
well, how it's
also,
processed.
process, but I just think of when you go to other countries and they show like what one serving size is. When you
Right.
go to a restaurant and they give you this giant burger that's 4 serving sizes, that's just America, right?
Right.
If you go to the UK or Brazil, wherever, one burger is like the size of a Burger King burger. It's
Right.
not. It's not crazy. So our portions are terrible. So that's factor number one. That's not going to be good. And then factor number two is it's all processed, as you said. So
Yeah.
milks. I mean, stay away from almond milk and soy milk now. High in
Well, and
estrogen.
also the Parisians, they eat very rich Parisians, but French. They eat very rich food, right? And you would think that they would have high cholesterol. They don't eat things on the run, and they
Right.
don't eat large portions. So they eat good food, and I'm generalizing, but they're known for good food, but small portions. If you go to a French, to your point, you go to a French restaurant, you're not getting an enormous burger on a plate.
Yeah.
You're getting well cut meat, blah blah blah, or you're getting a small size. They just eat normal portions, and they would never eat something out of a bag. They sit down and eat. Even snacks for kids, they don't. It's just not their way to rip open a package and have it. Maybe it's getting worse as companies similar to here in America. They're pushing their fast, easy food, but not to fault women, but a lot of it happened when women started going back to work. People didn't make their foods from scratch anymore.
Yeah.
It
Well,
just they don't have time.
the meal prep companies are always great, but if you get, I don't know, first off, they're kind of expensive for meal prep
Very
companies, but
Yeah.
also, I've never actually looked at the macros for it. I've never actually seen how many. I don't know if technically just because it's a healthy meal doesn't necessarily mean it's an unprocessed meal. So I would think if you're packaging stuff,
Yeah, you have
it
to.
has to have some level of preservatives in it or some process. So I'd have to really look at it. But to this things, like I would love to be in Italy and see what's processed versus unprocessed there. Like I want to see how it's 18%. How would my diet change at 18%?
Well, if the bulk of their food is, like pastas and whatnot, I don't know if that's true in Italy. Maybe that's just our preconceived notion. But if that's the bulk of their food, remember, Italy is the Mediterranean diet too. There's a lot of fish. There's a lot of not just
Yeah, if you go
carbs.
to Indonesia or any of the Asian countries, it's a lot of fish and rice.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's a whole different diet and what they take. But, there's nothing any unprocessed food is acceptable. I think as well, nothing to excess, right? You can't have steak every day, but a good clean piece of steak is good for you, right? It
Yeah.
is nothing bad.
But the
Pasta,
32-ounce steak, probably you don't need that. If you're eating a
yeah,
64-ounce steak every night for dinner.
but fresh pasta. I mean, I specifically know lots of people who make their own pasta, but there's one individual, he owns a food company, he's retired, but I've been told when he makes a ravioli, it melts in your mouth. It's all fresh. It's just a whole different thing than the preservatives and whatnot they put in it, so you can put it on a shelf, dried out, to be put in water and made fresh again.
Right.
So it's a whole different ball game when you're talking fresh food or homemade food versus, like you said, those prep things. I see all those commercials now. It's
Like
exploding with
freshly and whatever.
ready-made
Yeah.
meals, and they're trying to tell me how fresh it is. You have to preserve it, even if it's
Yeah.
vacuum packed.
Exactly.
So,
It's going to be on a shipment somewhere for it to get from California to New Jersey, wherever their thing is,
right.
depending on, obviously, there's a lot of factors there, but I'm just saying in general, there's
And
got
if
to
they
be
don't use,
something.
and if they don't use preservatives, it's going to be expensive because they have to get it to you quickly.
Yeah,
So the
exactly.
price of it's going to go up.
So, uh, this is an
But you know
interesting.
what you do
Go ahead.
need? You do need 2 hours of sunlight a day.
Didn't get that one from you, but which one was that?
The myopia.
Did you send
Okay?
me another one?
Yes, I did. I told you there was another one in there. Better eyesight.
Oh,
Start
yeah,
playing.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so I thought it. So I like the title. I thought you were going to give me that. We're in a short-sightedness epidemic, and we never saw it coming. But
Yes, but I'm wrong. It's not just short-sightedness, but it leads to ocular diseases, your cataracts, your glaucoma, your retinal detachment, your macular degeneration. I'll sum it up because we've been on a long time, but we're
yeah,
seeing it in younger and younger people, and more people having myopia, which is short-sightedness. I didn't realize this, but the shape of the eyeball changes. And part of the issue. Now, when I was younger, kids who were big readers usually had glasses, made them look quote unquote smart. Remember that? If you wore
Nerds.
glasses, well, if you wore glasses, you were probably smart because you read a lot. You know why? You're looking at one thing for a long period of time. Not good for the eyes.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, they need a break. We're having an explosion of it now. Why? Because babies are looking at a phone all day, right? Or
Yeah,
an
the
iPad.
iPad kids.
Yes, this is becoming a problem. And sunlight helps your eyes because the it helps it with the growing of them and the focusing of them, right? And obviously people aren't outside. When's the last time you were outside for 2 hours or a kid outside for 2 hours? We
My
mentioned
parents didn't let
Taiwan.
me go outside. My mom wouldn't let me anywhere near the
Oh,
sun.
stop it.
My mom wouldn't let me.
But I mean, this is a big problem because you can't fix it. You know, once it happens, you can't reverse it.
Yeah.
And we have a whole generation of young people that are fixated, let alone when they were in school for 2 years staring at a computer, right? That was their day. So they want you to adopt the 2022 rule. 20 minutes of near work, 20 seconds focus on something at the distance. 20
You.
seconds. And spend 2 hours each day. Taiwan has seen an improvement with their program TNTN 120. You are required at school to be outside for 120 minutes every day. They
Nice.
make the kids outside for 2 hours, right?
All we had was handball in gym class. That was I was sweating by the end of that. Handball was sick.
And we didn't go outside because, well, we did later on, because kids were outside all afternoon when they got home from school. That doesn't happen anymore. So they're not getting the sunlight and, let alone vitamin D, but also now for the eyes. I never realized this. To compound it from a young age, they're given screens in front of them in the car. They're given a screen when they're at school. They're given a screen when they're playing. People are constantly focusing in and reading too, if kids still read, focusing in, and you really do have to take a step back. So for everybody listening with your computer, set your timer. Every 20 minutes, look away for 20 seconds.
Not happening.
Yeah.
But nowadays, computers are designed so that, right, remember the old days where you would have what's called burn-in, where let's say you left the computer on for too long and you turned it off, it would burn into the screen. Now there's eye saver modes. There's a lot of other things. So I think if you have high-end monitors and say that again?
It's all lies.
Yeah.
It's a lie.
Yeah, maybe. But nowadays, I think computers are high-end enough, at least monitors and screens, that's not so much of a problem. But if you're on an old computer with an old monitor or a cheap monitor, I'm sure you're right. It probably messes your eyes up real bad.
It doesn't matter what you're staring at. It's the fact that you're focused on one thing.
Oh.
Okay? So, in a small range. So the point is, as I said, you could be reading a book.
I always look at my phone like this. I'm always like this on my phone.
Well, the parents, it's pretty sad when you're listening to some of these parents who've kind of accepted, like, oh, yeah, we always wondered why he would look at the phone with one eye. Okay? Or lean into the TV. Yeah. And it's so funny. Growing up for us kids, all you ever heard was, move away from the TV. You're sitting too close. Yeah. Every kid had to have their face like right up to the TV. Get away from the TV.
And now we have VR goggles. So.
Well, imagine that. What could that possibly do to people's eyes? So anyway, it's not about computers per se. It's just that's the mechanism. You're zoomed, like right now. I've been staring at a small screen, so my eyes are focused on that. If I move back and stare at the wall, they open, and that's that change.
I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't do it and you just focus on what you don't have it, and your brother can tell you his trials and travails with eyesight and the things that he did to improve his vision. And he told me a long time ago that it helped him. And, that focusing, it's a process if you're not able to do it. And he's the one that had the glasses before all you guys. So, and that's not because of computer based, it's just the way his eyes worked. But he knows a lot more about this than even I do because he experienced it and training his eyes to see things better, stuff that we take for granted. And now all these kids are doing it.
Thank God I have perfect genetics and don't have to worry about Glasses.
Well, you were adopted, so
Oh shit! I knew it.
no,
All right.
that's
So,
all.
how many questions do we have from people? Now that we're done, we could do one. Have y'all ever thought about year 2030 and the fusion of human brain and AI called the singularity event? I don't think it'll happen that quickly. Like, I think when people say singularity event, maybe you'll see the start of it. I mean, technically, we've seen the start now with the people that are getting the Neuralink, but the concept that everyone by 2030 is going to have some form of a Neuralink, nah, it's unrealistic. That's like how they've been saying, year 2000 for the last 24 years. So,
Me personally, I can't think past like each year because I'm getting up there. I don't know if I'll be around it.
yeah, 2030, yeah. What other questions do we have? Now's the time you can ask anything, just because we're wrapping it up. We already did what, 2 hours 10?
When you're younger and people say like, "Oh, wait till the year 2000." We're all like 2000.
What
You think
happens?
it's like a million years away, and I'm gonna
Yeah,
be how old am I? 30 something? Oh my god! And then you get there, and now you're,
everything's
you
gonna
know.
be bombed.
Well, when we talk about us finding a house, and I always say, like, our next house is not going to be a 30-year house. We've been in our house here 33 years. Well, why not? Because I'm 60.
Yeah,
I'm not going to be 93 years old in my next house. Not going to happen. So odds are I might not even be 73 in my next house. But, it's a whole different perspective when you get to a certain age.
yeah,
Sadly, it's like, good luck to you guys. Good luck to you with that AI. Hope it works out for you.
yeah. See, I think everyone left after we went on and on about
Ukraine.
Ukraine and stuff.
Yeah.
We'll give it a few minutes and then we can wrap things
Well, we
up.
did ask questions during Ukraine, during our
Yeah, but as I
talk,
said,
so.
most people don't want to listen to that for 45 minutes plus.
Hey, you drag me into these things.
They were good questions. It's just, it's just I can only do so much. And then it becomes a circle of who's got the right history and who's got the wrong history. That's really what it just ends up coming down to. But it's tough. Like, it's tough to go by other countries because we know that their news is suppressed. Like, Canadians don't even know half the shit that's going on, and they're right above us because there's so many bans on what they can search on the internet.
Well, we've been there too.
Oh yeah.
We've had it here. We've had our fair share.
And then we created VPNs.
I don't even know everything about like Ukraine and whatnot, and that's part of the problem. I can't trust any information from some of these countries,
Yeah.
what we get, and what's not. And if we've learned nothing else, even the last few,
If we learn anything, trust China and everything they say.
oh my god, no.
Trust the CCP.
No, I don't trust anybody anymore. I don't trust news. I like I said, I had a whole debate today with Mrs. Greta about Thomas Jefferson and his slave wife or slave girlfriend,
Yeah.
Sally Hemings. And there's some people who say that they were actually her children, and there's evidence that says no, he was not necessarily the father. So anyhow, I said, well, it's a good debate, but it all comes down to how legitimate are our sources.
Yeah. No one. What? We can't run a DNA test now.
Well, they do.
Oh,
They've
do
run
they?
it
Do
to-
they have it? Oh. Well, if the DNA test says they're not, then I guess they're not.
No, what it says is
Inconclusive.
somebody in the Jefferson family could be the father, not necessarily him. And that's when you get into anecdotal stuff.
And you know what? In the end, I just don't care. In the end, it's been 300 years.
You care when they use that as an argument of why they have to tax you because you need reparations because of the evil Thomas Jefferson.
Oh
Blah, blah,
God!
blah.
Don't even get me started with that.
Right, but she's into that history, and it was interesting to hear what she had to say because she knows a lot of anecdotal stuff, letters that have been written and whatnot. But then it came down to, I'm like, well, who's your source and who's my source? Do I even know who these people? They throw these names out. He's a PhD from Stanford University. He claims, okay, yeah. I'm becoming skeptical. In the past, I'd be like, oh, he must know. That's not true anymore. I don't trust anybody with their information. So,
see. All right, Mom. We haven't gotten any questions, so we can wrap it up there. What do I have to promote? So obviously, we had the last podcast. You're coming next week with Dad?
I don't know if it's going to be next weekend.
But sometime next week. So we have one more podcast to do over Discord, and then hopefully that week we can Do one maybe with
But
Dad.
I don't know what Dad's plans are if he wants to go down that Saturday or Sunday. I don't know till I talk to him,
Okay.
and he won't be home till tomorrow. So I'll check with him and see what days he's thinking because he's got to work around his work
Right.
schedule. So I've kept the week free, and yeah, if we don't leave by the first week, do it that Saturday. I don't care.
We got one more.
Because
Oh,
you
one.
wanted me to bring the mic down for the following weekend or something, didn't you say? Maybe do a podcast down there.
For what? Wait, say that again.
You had said to bring the mic down in case.
Oh
We do a
yeah, because if we did a
podcast.
podcast here, you, me, and Dad, we just need the third microphone. One more podcast is in, but one more for the month before we, one more, and then you're down, and then back to regular schedule. Who do y'all think will be Trump's successor for 2028? JD Vance. It's probably going to be JD Vance.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, so far he's the front runner. I think they did a straw poll. Number 2 was somebody really weird. Hold on, I have to think about it. The second person, I was shocked when I saw it. Oh, well, I can't think of it now, but yeah, they did a straw poll and Vance was in the lead. Gosh, I can't think who the second person was. Oh, Steve Bannon.
Oh, really?
Yes, they had him in second place for presidential candidate, which I'm like, yeah, no way.
I want to see Fetterman in there. No.
Gosh.
The Eagles. Go Eagles.
Yeah, it's always funny to see how that evolves, but yeah, it's a little early yet to.
Yeah. He's only been in for 2 months, and it feels like a year considering how much he's accomplished, and not even a full 2 months. But,
I know. Yeah.
So,
Good
but
question.
yeah. Anyway, so only things I have to promote. Obviously, the podcast of last week. I posted a video on what was Wednesday's video. Someone remind me. Hon, it'll come to me. It'll come to me. It's not coming to me. I gotta
Where's your
check.
whiteout board?
My what?
Your whiteout board. Don't you usually put
Yeah, it's up there, but I think it's a little. Oh God, I just post too much stuff. Oh, was that the tomb? Was that the zombies?
I'm coming.
Man, I wish YouTube needs to be a little better about how this stuff works. Yes, so 3 days ago was the tomb. God, that feels like a week ago. So that was Wednesday's video, and then yesterday I posted a speed run for Get to Work. That was a fun speed run. I did it in under an hour. I was very proud of myself. And then this week, just the usual schedule. I don't know what's going to be posted. So yeah, social media, promo code, stream links, Discord down below, and we'll see you next weekend for the non-live podcast. So good questions as always, good debates, and yeah.
We'll chop down the.
We'll have to start like limiting 30 minutes unless there's I mean, there were good questions. I don't mind, but as we said, once it comes down to who just reads different books, then it's like, okay, well, what are we doing? We'll agree to disagree. So
yeah, nothing wrong with that. We like that in America. Agree to disagree.
Yeah. I mean, when someone tells me that the UK is fine, when all my friends are like, we got to get out of here, that's how I know something's not right. Yeah. That's how I know some level of information's a little off, but
I think I would trust somebody from the UK before I trust somebody from the US.
Yeah, exactly. So
about the UK, yeah, lived experience. So.
Yeah, like my friend Brittany over there, she's like, yeah, it's a mess out here. Like all my friends are getting robbed. I was like, what? So, I mean, maybe Brittany's exaggerating, but
so are all our celebrities.
Yeah, true. Yeah, everyone's houses are getting broken into, but whatever. So anyway, you guys have a good week. I will see you tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard stream, and hopefully you'll see Mom next weekend. So, yeah.